outside.
Good luck. You don't need a COVID job, you just need a...
I've got Richard as an advisor.
Yeah, don't forget they gave me the 245 last year.
Yes. You.
What's that?
Canadian flag, isn't it?
You put it there.
It's alright, she's not American, so she won't be upset that I've
You put it somewhere. So it's nice. Like, I don't know.
You can put it on our newly extended goalpost, which makes up for the fact that the pitch isn't quite as long as it's supposed to be.
It doesn't fit. Oh, there it is. There you go.
It feels really weird having
Sandy, where are you from? Just as a query.
Well, in case the teacher doesn't tell you.
Oh, France.
That's the other bit of Canada, isn't it? That's the militants.
Yeah.
We don't speak
Céline
about
Dion's
that.
one of my favourite singers. Sometimes I'm in the car and I think I am her.
I've heard you sing, actually. Do you remember singing to Andrea Dobson after you played Fev last year? Well, you didn't play because you were, let's say last year.
Oh, it's been more than a season.
You were singing from The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
It was very good.
Obviously.
Welcome to what has been described on YouTube as the worst podcast stroke video out there. So...
Yes!
You can only go downhill from there.
She's been on the BBC. She's been actually on BBC. I saw her on the Super League show the other week, and now you're slumming it with us again. Phil's second favourite Leeds prop.
Oh, is it even second anymore? No comment.
No comment.
Silence speaks volumes, eh? I'm out.
Could be worse.
Favourite at the moment.
I mean, that's even worse. I don't need any pity points anymore today. No pity points.
We saw you on Twitch and everything playing.
You're my favourite.
Thanks.
That matters.
Yeah, it does.
I don't play favourite.
Yeah.
You and the rest of the Super League Rhinos.
Yeah.
The defending champions.
41 days since our last game. Shock to the system. But
In
good.
the rain.
Oh my gosh. I've never played rugby league in the rain. Genuine. I've never played rugby league in the rain. It's been spitting or I've not played. And that's the first game since I've converted from uni that I've had to play in the rain.
And it rained.
And
It did rain.
Did it. But yeah, a few sticky hours at the start. Probably the rain, probably just a mix of not playing. But 40 minutes was for rocky, but then the second half we finally came into our own and we kind of tore away with it a little bit. So it was good. Do you know what? I think it was the best as a team performance we've done. And I don't mean as in what we did on the pitch, but for each other on the field. So there were so many times where people were just shouting, I need this, or you've got this, or do this. And everyone just moved. There was one time we were all just like, that actually felt like we had everybody's back, which it does normally, but it was lovely. It was really great. Good to get back out. Good to start the playoffs with 0 points.
I'm not bitter.
Oh my, undefeated.
All those games I went to see you, not you, I mean...
Well, yeah, see me.
Yeah.
How well do I clean balls, though?
Well,
Rugby balls. You know. But yeah, it was good.
It's an
Good one
important
out.
skill these days.
Good one out. And I'm glad they got 2 games on Twitch this weekend.
Yes.
Which was very nice.
What happened to the Monday night thing? Remember that, Phil? Monday Night Rugby? That lasted about 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, and the one game they cancelled on was ours. But it was a good chat. To be fair, like, Monday Night Rugby was a great time to put it on, I guess, in one respect. But on the others, people always forget...
On the other, this programme's on, yeah.
No, yeah, obviously this is on. And also, people forget that these women are professional...
People.
In the sense that kicking off at 7:45, A means leaving work or having to work or leaving work early. And then that post-match insomnia that you get after a 7:45, which was more often than not delayed to 8.
When you have your pizza at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
So who wrote, but surely there has to be recognition of all the effort put in to date and points carried forward in some way. Even if fixtures so far haven't been equitable, there is also has to be integrity. Am I angry and disappointed about that? Of course.
You want some kind of
I mean,
halfway shield?
who actually wrote that?
I am. Shield or something?
No, so what?
Shield.
I understand that we were going to split 6 and 4, 4 and 6. We were going to split, and I appreciate that's what we're working towards. But then we were going to keep the points and carry them forward. Now they're saying because of COVID, because of injuries, because of teams not fielding, etc., they needed to wipe the slate clean. However, if somebody had looked at I've got a screenshot of it. I'm not going to lie. If somebody looked at the league table, when just before they did the split, the top 4 teams had all played 7 games.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that Saints had to forfeit one of them.
Against York. Yeah.
Against York. So they didn't play it, but they chose to forfeit that. That wasn't a COVID thing. That was a availability thing from a squad of God knows how many, I don't know how. But so, yeah, but why have we played the first half of the season? It wasn't a warm-up season. It wasn't a pre-season friendlies. Well, they were essentially now, weren't they?
On my phone, I've got a thing called evidence folder, in which I take screenshots of things that I
is
know
very
will be,
true.
which
I
I
have
know will
seen
be
it.
useful at times.
But yeah.
Doesn't do
Hey, it was good to get back out there. We've got round 1 of the playoffs done. York on Sunday at 5 p.m. after the men.
Can I put that on Twitch as well? Because I'm working Sunday.
I'm assuming they'll put it on Twitch because Saints haven't got a game. And then it'll be Wigan Cass, won't it?
Then is the week after you're playing Wigan.
No, the week after playing Saints at home.
Oh yeah, it's at Weekwood, isn't it? That's why I'm not going, because I'm off to watch Wakefield instead, because it's their last home game, I think. So
So
It's gotta be
again, back
true.
to his favouritism.
Yeah, I know.
A lie, second
I'm on
best
the
always.
committee. I'm on the committee now. I've got to
And I'm
go.
sat here on your podcast.
Yeah, I know. And obviously,
Okay, let's be friends here. Come on.
obviously, in the actual, top competition thing, I want all teams to win equally, but some more equal than others.
The tension.
He's never ever back to Leeds to win a thing.
I've heard.
It's not like
And how many times
it's in his
have you won
DNA.
them?
Yeah, just to prove you wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to think.
Oh
that for
look,
ego
here's the
purposes.
table. For, oh no, it is.
But, I mean, this is why this is the worst podcast out there, as it says, because we haven't introduced our guests. I mean, Danny Cruz anyway, who...
Don't assume. There may be some new views.
well, no, I mean, Dave says Scully's changed. Well, if you're wondering where Scully
Oh,
is,
God.
people still ask us where he is. We've sent him to Australia with Ian Botham to do the trade deals. I hope Ian Botham's got better at protecting his middle stump, but that's all I can care about. Well done, Danica, says Paula. Well done, Danica, says Pete. All the same, Pete.
Thanks.
2 very special guests here, Gary. It says yes, because Phil's moved out there.
I'm just eating donuts tonight.
Because Sandy's come and brought donuts.
Yes.
You have begged us to come on this programme for a long time, in fairness. And we haven't let you on. But now you brought donuts, and there's exciting news from Canada.
There is. Hopefully next year.
But I think it should be contextualised.
Okay.
The sport now needs direction as to what it's going to be, what it's going to look like, where it might be played, where investment's going to come from, and it has to change. And I think that's not us saying that, even though clearly we have been saying that for 5 years. Adam Pearson's saying that, Gary Hetherington's saying that. People who are involved that can make these decisions are now saying we need to make some decisions. So now is a really good time to have representatives of a growing market, how will that work, and the women's game, which I think, again, a lot of people at the moment are looking at the influence that the 100 cricket has had in bringing in a new audience. It was given an absolute lambasting when it was proposed.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to appeal to traditional cricket fans. But actually it has brought in a lot more women and children. It's put the women's and the men's game on an equal parity.
Totally.
And you look at the crowds that they've got.
17,000 the last. Yeah.
And the teams that they've manufactured to give it a different feel. And it's sort of worked. It's probably too early to judge it, but what we have in this room is a representative of what Rugby League could look like going ahead.
And I think that obviously the Canada competition that we're trying to develop is a nines, which is the alternative to the traditional. And it's not to go against the norm or what people are used to, but I think it can be a good accompaniment to it. I think it'll be a good partner to it. And if you're someone like me who was new to the sport, it's a big ask to try to get people involved as much as you need to be involved, either as an athlete into an 80-minute game, or even as a fan when, if you've got friends who are rugby, know rugby, it's easy to get involved. So we believe that obviously the nines, just like with the cricket, if you do a shorter version of the sport, rugby league is huge. It's a big sport, but if you just have a slightly different version of it that is easy to grasp, it's easy to get people involved because a 15-minute game is easy to get people involved in.
Make it an 18-minute game.
Do you know what
2 halves of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking out
I'm
loud.
just throwing that in there.
But it's
Have that idea
it's
for free.
It's about just trying to bring new people into the game.
I think first of all you should explain the concept that it's cooperative, because
Yeah.
I think again
That's
there's two things that spring to mind. One is clearly it's going to be for both sexes equally, which is partly
Yeah.
why you're getting
Yeah.
involved.
yeah.
You should explain not just the as a superstar player, superstar player.
That's not even true.
But you're also going to help out in the formulation of what the sport should look
Yeah.
like. But you've added in this element of development time, which is a very, very unfamiliar rugby league concept, and a strategy as well, that you didn't say we're going to do it tomorrow, it's going to sing and dance from the minute we do it. It's like we're going to put down some foundations, we're going to build towards something, we're going to get some people involved who are actually going to be given some time to bring their perspective and ability, expertise in.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that some won't know who watch this terrible program is the idea behind it being a cooperative.
Yeah, so the initial idea came around 7 years ago when it was asked, if you could start rugby league from scratch, what would you do? If you literally could just swipe the tile and then just start. And
You book the George Hotel.
and in those 7 years, there was research on different business models that are out there, and looking at the different business models and how they reacted to big situations like COVID or credit crunch or whatever. And the one model that kept on coming up above is a co-op model, because it's not reliant on one or two individuals to support that, because the members are part of the organization. They have an active role in it. And so when we decided that's the model that we're going to go, we looked at, has this been done in any other sport? So if you look at the Green Bay Packers, a lot of people don't know that they're actually a not-for-profit organization. They are a co-op, and yet look how successful they are. Look at the German teams, if you're in the Premiership, they're owned by 51% by fans. And those clubs are the ones who are more sustainable. Obviously, Barcelona, they also are a co-op, but because of the leadership and the disregard to the co-op rules that are in place, like consultation with the members, etc., they have now put themselves, and that's why they're no longer president, and they've got a new director board. So there's a lot of ownership in terms of who is running the club. Now, the board that we have in place, we are solely custodians of this. Just like with any sport, whether you're a Man United fan, Leeds United, whatever, the owners of the clubs are custodians. The clubs were there way before, they came along. So there has to be a respect element with the fans and bring them along the journey so that they can really feel that they're part of it. Because if you look at what they're going to do in Super League, the rules of, we're going to have this new competition in Europe, the fans didn't know. I'm like, how much can you disregard the people who are making you the money, the people who are bringing into the fans, new generations? These people are what sport's about. And so by having a co-op model, it's enabling us to ensure that that always stays in the heart of what we do.
So a co-op model is basically you're looking for investors within the public.
So it's
to
two.
part own.
Yeah. So
Or own a significant percentage.
That's correct.
These aren't clubs. This is a competition, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
That
So
where you talk about Barcelona and the Bundesliga clubs, you're actually asking people to invest in a competition.
Yeah, so it's the whole league. So every club, so every city that we announced, they are owned by the league.
So that's more along the MSL line in America, that the clubs actually are part of the organisation, but the organisation owns part of each of the clubs.
No, but the league will own, the CCCRL own the whole aspect of all the clubs.
Yeah.
So when it
So
comes
it's taking that to the next level.
Yeah, so when it comes to the administration, the running of it, it's going to be central. So we don't have 10 HR people, we don't have 10 ticket offices, it's all going to be central. And therefore, we can ensure that how we deliver to fans in Vancouver or in Montreal is going to be exactly the same. It's going to be very consistent, and it needs to be that. Because like when I bought tickets to games here, even in the championship level, like why are some of the clubs having to have their own set of, HR or ticket office when actually why not get together and have a central point where everyone can kind of save money that way as well, and it makes it more streamlined as well. So.
But this isn't something that you set up to start tomorrow,
No.
which all
Thank God, no.
which all Rugby League has been on the basis of, I've had an idea and you can now buy a shirt.
Yeah.
It's more to do with the fact that COVID or otherwise, you didn't intend to put players on pitches within 10 minutes of announcing this idea.
No, it can't be that, because, I mean, I'm new to the sport, so in the short space of time that I've followed the sport, there's been a lot of fans being let down. There's been a lot of disappointment from players and other organizations. And for me, and the people on the board, we want to make sure that we think things through. We don't want to announce a date. We don't want to announce anything until we know that everything's in place, because we have to be transparent. By being a co-op, it's about transparency. So if someone asks us anything during the AGM, we can demonstrate what planning if we, for example, did our trials for our players and it cost us $100,000, we have to be transparent in why did it cost that much, if people did question that. So it is about making sure that we plan things thoroughly, that we've got the right legal advice that possible, that we're following government rules of what's going on at the moment, because they change their minds left, right, and center. So yes, I know people want to know a lot, but we really want to be taking our time to make sure we know it's going to play next year. That's what we know.
Which is incredibly un-Rugby League like.
Mm.
So in terms of what you've announced so far,
Yeah.
conferences in East and West.
East and West, yeah.
Which is their first announcement of cities that are going to have teams.
Correct.
And a dual competition, men's and women's.
Correct.
Which is where
They're
the
wonderful.
Women's Advisory Group
Yes.
comes in.
Yeah.
So the next thing is, why did you see it as an opportunity to get involved at ground floor level that excited you? Because you're experienced in the playing side of things. How exciting is it to open up a new market or be involved at the ground floor level of that?
Well, that's exactly it. Isn't like I speak to you often, or we speak about things in the grassroots level. For me, I'm a teacher. I like the development of it, but it wasn't so much. It wasn't so much that, like the idea of it, the nines, the competition itself in general. When Sandy spoke to me about it, it wasn't about this competition, how great it's going to be. It's about, firstly, how can we bring the women's game on, but how can we deal with all the misconceptions? How can we deal with all the troubles, the issues, the problems? Initially, and I was like, that's the first time somebody said, hey, we want this competition to be as equal as it possibly can be. Look, we're not with the men yet, nor we're closing that gap, and this certainly does close the gap. And I'm not saying that we will ever be equal, but this is the first time I've ever felt that there's going to be a board where it might be a case where we sit next to the men, or there's an idea, and God forbid, that they're going to take the idea from both sides rather than one. And it's having this central kind of organisation. It means that, how many times did Rich and I speak in 2019 about where do we come? Are we community? Are we elite? Are we Super League? Are we...
Are you elite?
Now we can. We'll come back to that. But it was like the disciplinary stuff, wasn't it? We were like, well, where do we lie? Does it go to a board? And things, small things that you don't think about. Level of facilities or training or,
Well, even on game day, having your own dressing room, for example.
Oh, we would, yeah.
And who would think that wouldn't be a prerequisite?
Crazy, eh? Crazy. Who needs a dressing room?
But
it's like officials, isn't it? Like touch judges, or what do the women need? And it's not for me just about developing the game. I think that part of it is fantastic, and I'm more about developing the sport. In Canada, it's an emerging sport, so to me, it's brand new. I can go over, and I could say anything, and if somebody's keen to play this game, they're going to listen. And I think that's such a lovely thing as well, because I want to grow the sport in the UK. I want to grow the sport in Canada. I want to grow the sport in Europe. I'm a rugby league geek and I'm proud of it.
But you've played the Canadian Ravens in a World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You've played against teams like PNG Orchids. You've seen the potential for the women's sport. What it doesn't really have is a plan.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
you almost can take up the game in, let's say, America at the moment and be playing for America.
Yeah.
And actually you need that middle area that develops players over a period of time.
Because our view was that, like I said, whether you're a backer or you're a member and you're being part of the process, is we are custodians of the financial support that you're giving us. So we want to make sure that whatever we're putting the money into has a plan, has a strategy, so that if something doesn't work, we can go back into it and decide, actually, this didn't work for the Western Conference, it works for, and look at that. And that's why, having the women's committee, it's about speaking to people who currently play and getting the expert people in countries where it's already being played, and try to get lessons learned so that we can come up with a strategy, a plan to how to engage women, young girls, teenagers into the sport.
As fans as much as
Yes,
players.
yes,
as well.
exactly, yeah. And there is a decrease in women in Canada getting into team sport already, so.
I mean, it's such an accessible sport as well, nines. That's something you and I both like the concept anyway, don't we? But it's a
Just think you need to have a different offer for a younger audience.
It's a quick, easy. No, it's not easy. I'm going to retract that statement straight away.
Maintains the...
It's a quick and exciting game.
Yeah.
It's fast. You've got to be skillful. You've got to be tactical. And it's not, we need 13, 17, 25 players. We need 12 maybe. The whole idea of getting teams, you're not putting pressure on to find lots of people. It's not taken away from the 13s, because all that's going to do is enhance the 13s. Because, I mean, I'm involved in a nines competition in Canada. However, I'm not a nines player because I am a prop forward, and therefore, as much as I'd love to be a part of a nines, I wouldn't be picked over the backs that would be playing, because it's a faster game.
I think the thing about nines that works from, we like everything Rugby League, we dip our toe in it, we think, oh, that's a good idea, and then we do something completely different. But the thing that worked about nines was you do still have specific positions, because the rules dictate you've got to have some people that clearly are forwards. It's not like Rugby Union sevens where everyone has to be a back.
I can't even follow that anyway.
It's the nines, the laws and the elements of nines combine everything that is the 13s game. Yeah. So there is a place for prop forwards in it.
And Danny Anderson style prop forwards, yeah.
How is the recovery?
But if you look at cricket, I would never ever, you'll ever find me in a cricket game, because I don't understand.
Why not? What's wrong
because
with
after
there
5
for all day and nothing happens?
Because after
It's
5
great.
days, you can. It's
But
like no one wins.
But that's only one version of cricket.
I know, but that's the one that I was first made aware of.
I was hoping that the England-India series ended 0-0 with them all being draws. So that would be the perfect riposte to the 100.
But yeah, so I am a baseball fan, and people hate me for that, thinking, oh, baseball's boring. But for cricket, I just find it's not engaging enough for me as a sports fan.
But the 100 has been.
But the 100, I'll be going to it. The kids loved it because it was faster, and they were so engaging with the fans. The commentator was explaining the rules, and there was things happening.
But I clearly think you have to have both versions.
Yeah, oh, totally. You cannot have one without the other, because...
So is the plan at some stage to go from 9s to supplement 13s, or is the CCC,
the triple CRL,
CCCRL going to only be 9s forevermore?
The plan is for 9s, because I think that's what we have to focus on, because the fan bases are different. We want to focus on the new generation.
It's a brand new strategy and a brand new thing as well. So.
And the thing is, if people who are currently playing 9s for us, for example, want to get into 13s, we will engage with the provincial game. So we have been, since day one, liaising and speaking to the provincial boards and the CRLA about what we were wanting to do, so that it makes sure that if there is any player who wants to play 9s, it doesn't clash with the calendar or the schedule. So we have been working with them since day one to ensure that we are working together. 10% of the profits that we make go back to them.
I think
it has to be.
Other two exciting things that, just by even chatting about it, one is clearly the Olympics are going to be in Brisbane in 2032, and there's already been representation saying the host city can ask for certain exhibition events, and the two that they're looking at the moment is Rugby League 9s, because virtually enough countries particularly throughout the Commonwealth area, play Rugby League, and wheelchair, which again another variant that we find incredibly exciting. So you're actually building in towards something. But I think the other thing that you could be the start of, without again wishing to place goals that you haven't set yourselves, is that this could be the beginning of a 9s tour in every nation that plays Rugby League. So you would need a 9s tournament here in England, you'd need a 9s tournament in Australia, you'd need your tournament in Canada, and at some point it becomes a global tour.
Yeah.
And the thing is with the co-op model is that, so my specific role within the league is about developing of the framework. And so co-ops, if you're a co-op, the whole thing is you help other people. It's about helping other people. So if there was a nation who wanted to, say Argentina, I'm just making one up, who said,
No, they
look,
do exist.
well, but you know what I mean,
I'm
like,
sure you can buy the shirts and see them.
I mean, you know, they might say, do you know, we want to have a nines. Can you help us? We would give them our framework and help them establish a co-op model within Argentina based on what we've done. So that it's about helping them.
You wouldn't hold it as your intellectual property and not share it.
No, because that's
Yeah.
part of the whole co-op
Those
thing.
who saw the Robert Bergen issue will now know. That
Yeah, but
But
yes.
isn't that the exciting part of it? Like, you've got a concept
Yes.
here, which is a new tournament. It's still taking what we know and love. It's a new tournament. And as much as I love Rugby League and I play it and I adore it, but it's going to take somebody else to take the reins and test it for everyone else to go, oh, actually, it does work. Because nobody wants to dip the toe in at the minute. And this is what this competition is doing. They're not dipping the toe in, though. They're jumping two-footed after very careful considerations about everything else. Like, having spoken to Sandy and other people, like, I am confident with my involvement that I see something that has longevity, but has the research and the backing, and it's secure, and the consistency across the men's and the women's, and it's a very, very exciting concept that when it is successful, because I truly believe it's going to be successful, there will be nations that are going, actually, can we borrow that model? Can we see
But
that
more
does
than
work?
that, there might be television companies who are getting a bit tired of what they're being offered at the moment. So,
Yeah.
well, if you can add in that nines element, you've got something.
It's quicker and more fun to watch for the fan
But-
base, isn't it?
But if you look at cricket, but also lacrosse, so lacrosse recently changed into a quicker version. So they now have a quicker version as well because they realized
Of course,
that the new generation, they view sports so differently. They don't watch the full. If you look at the NBA, they've had less. Even in the final last year, when there was absolutely no sport happening, they had less viewers than ever before. And it's because people don't watch sport the same way.
So talking about that, relating it to what we've seen in Rivals Round, the only clip that should have been retweeted endlessly and remorselessly from this weekend's games was James Bentley and John Bateman coming together.
Awkward.
But that's what's going to sell to kids and the young generation. It's going to be spectacular tries, but it's not the intricacies behind it. It's going to be one guy
The big
flattening
bash.
another guy and saying,
But it's the story behind it. John Bateman, like, I'm up for this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to suck it to you, blah, blah, blah. Oh.
I mean,
Oh.
you know, League Express, which of course we all read because there's no other paper these days, has their weekly awards, quote of the week, tweet of the week. Especially, it's great when they give it to Martin Sadler, the tweet of the week. I don't know if he gets it so often. But, new award today, thinnest skinny in Rugby League, John Bateman. How the hell, all right, we're going to be meh. They went okay, didn't they? They went okay.
they won the
No,
first
no.
7 games,
Yeah.
but they
they're
weren't
rubbish,
scoring points.
Now they're rubbish now.
They've had a dip in play.
As
haven't they?
Andrew Foster will point out, Lee have scored more points than them. John Bateman biting to St Helens Twitter feed.
But
What's
isn't
that all
that how
about?
we should be selling the
Yeah,
sport?
but that's the whole point of it, yeah.
That's what, that if you're going to appeal to a younger audience, then a nines format and picking out incidents like that and over magnifying them is how you're going to attract kids going, I want to do what that bloke just did. And
We need some stars.
no, we've got them. We just don't.
And
No,
then-
it's just
promote
it's
them.
not. It's about that promotion, isn't it? Of so, like Sandy and I were talking about this, the clips you see. So you might have a kid that likes playing rugby league and he plays for his community club, and he might support Leeds because his dad's gone there or he's gone there, but he only supports Leeds because that's the done thing in the household, and then he might not watch them consistently, but what he will see on the Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, whatever it is, because there's a lot on there now. So that's where the kids go to now. Is that clip of somebody being absolutely battered or flattened, the clip of Tommy making some flying through the air to score a try, or do you remember when Josh Charnley came back from Union and he slid was it Cass? We played at Cass and he scored that try and slid about 15 metres in the rain.
Yeah.
Like, that looks fun, that looks exciting, that's going to make you go.
Jordan Lane charging down a drop goal at the very last minute of a game. It's all that kind
But that's the
of
type
thing.
of stuff, but like, that's what now is the new I watched the St Helens and York women's game yesterday because research or whatever, I'm being supportive. I'm not going to say I got bored. But it
That's
was
nothing to do with the commentary because we love Goldie.
No, it wasn't even that. It was because,
Oh.
Saints had kind of run away with it. Saints were very good.
It was a comprehensive
people
victory
like
from the centre.
people like Jodie Cunningham who stand out all the time were doing some fantastic things. Amy Hardcastle popping the ball off to get Danielle Bush in the like. There's things like that. There's clips, and I want to rewatch the highlights of their moves rather than I had it on and I watch and I will always put the Twitch on because I'm trying to be supportive but at the same time, I take it away from rugby league and I go back to the greatest competition in the world, the Olympics, and back in the day, Baron Pierre de Coubertin said, we need something that is going to test the true male soldier. So he brought in the pentathlon.
The modern pentathlon.
The modern pentathlon.
Wonderful
he brought it in.
chaos, yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you a horse that you don't know. I'm going to give you, I'm going to make you run and then shoot and then do this, do that.
What was that mad horse? Saint,
Yeah,
whatever
it was.
Saint boy.
As of the next Olympics, in 3 years' time, so the modern pentathlon's always been tweaked. It's gone from a 5-day event. It will be a 90-minute event next Olympics. 90-minute because they've decided, and they're not going to do the whole everyone competes everything. So the guy that came second, the French guy that came second this year, forgive me, I can't remember his name because I've slept. He was originally by the third round in 13th place.
Second place is first loser anyway. So.
Exactly, it is. But he was in 13th. So next time he does that in the Olympics, if he's in 13th by the third round, he's kicked out. He's not got a chance to run it.
Yeah.
But it's rather than it being a 5-day long event, they've gone to 90 minutes to make it, in their words, more accessible for the viewer. If their modern day Olympics are changing their events, why can't we?
Can't wait to see fast dress out.
I mean, somewhere on the modern pentathlon version of this programme, they're bemoaning the lack of the traditions of the world of modern.
Oh,
pentathlon.
I'm the biggest traditionalist in the world. Like, I come from a classical ballet background. I don't like hip hop and street dance, and I don't like it. But you know what? That's what sells. That's what is the. And I love 13s rugby league. I love 15s rugby union. But the 7s and the 9s are super exciting to watch.
You can go too far there, can't you? I mean, come on.
Only because you're jealous that I can't understand it.
I did commentary on rugby union once.
That was once.
Say no more. But no, I think I'm all for. I am so stuck in my ways. I'm such an old
But the
romantic
other thing
at heart.
to throw into all this at the moment, and again, it's why having you on is so important because it's talking about what the future might look like.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the crowds at the moment because there are no restrictions effectively. Everybody's waited for the opportunity to get back. Footballers had sellouts at hats off to even Bradford City. They've had 19,000 for a Division 4 game. So that shows all that. The 100 which you've already spoken about has gone from nothing to almost sellout stadiums.
Yeah.
So we should be looking at the attendances we've got and going, it's a sign that the sport is healthy because people want to come back. And it's been a struggle. So all of what you're talking about and appealing to a new audience has actually never been more relevant. So we still need to have what the bulk of people watch, 13 aside.
Yeah, totally.
But you have to now offer something different.
Yeah, because unfortunately we're all going to die. Like
I
it or not.
believe there is no option in that.
Oh,
so
I'm
the
married
thing
Edward
is,
Cullen, I'm not.
So if you don't look at how can we regenerate our audience, those fans are going to disappear. So it's about, and that's what cricket did. They noticed that we have to do something.
And they haven't necessarily got it all right.
No, but
it'd be very interesting to see in the second year what kind of interest there is in the 100. They're going to have to make some tweaks. But what they've done is acknowledge.
Yeah.
See, the other thing from a rugby league point of view is that, as Brian Noble says in the new issue of, which I am obligated to say at least 3 times, that Sky are operating at the moment a conscious uncoupling with the sport of rugby league. That having said we'll only do you a deal for 2 years and we'll give you a quarter less or a third depending on who you listen to than you've had before, that's a warning notice that unless you come up with something a little bit different, we're stepping back from you. Now that is our only real funding, so we should be very, very concerned about it.
But there's a double-edged sword there, I think. There's 2 things. One is the restrictions the RFL have put on match days. So we know that 40% of spectators are women and children. There are no match day activities in it at the minute because of COVID. There are none of that. Like, I'm biased and I know people out there are not going to like me, but just deal with it. Leeds Rhinos.
It's like this program.
Yeah. Leeds Rhinos, I think, do the best family match day experience from inflatables. You can go into the cricket centre and there's things to do. You can, they have the army days, or they get children on to carry the flags onto the field. Like, all of the things that would, can we go down because they've got a bouncy castle, or have all gone at the minute.
At half time.
Yeah, like all the kids at half time. How many mums go down to watch rugby because their kids are playing at half time at Henley Stadium? It's a fantastic opportunity. You're not going to miss your child do that. And that's not Leeds. It's not Leeds saying we can't do it. It is the rules of the RFL and the COVID restrictions. And also, something that is probably pickling me a little bit is ticket prices. What we have come back from a pandemic, and we are a struggling sport. And I understand that people need to make money. I understand that we need to find a way to build revenue, etc., etc. But how much did you pay to go to Leeds United, a Premiership football team? I'm getting stressed about it.
So under 11s was £5, under 16 £10. I think adults was 27.
And it was £22 to watch the women play on Saturday night. I wouldn't pay £22 to watch me play.
I would.
That'd be quite talented.
Oh, God.
I'd pay 25
It's
to watch
literally-
Danielle,
yeah.
I'd pay 22 to watch me.
You're just trying to get me back on side now. But no, it's ridiculous, right? I know.
It is. It's
Right,
20 quid
Richard,
for a kid to go watch
Wakefield.
Wakefield.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that point.
It's 20
To watch
quid for a
Wakefield.
kid.
They're doing really well.
I've not been there
Oh,
yet,
no.
so I'm not going to discriminate. I'm going there on Bank
Oh,
Holiday
to be fair, they
Monday,
pulled it back quite well on
so-
I'm
Saturday.
bitter though, aren't I?
They pulled it quite back well on Saturday. But, like, how ludicrous is it
Oh,
to
completely.
£22 to pay
Oh.
for somebody to come and watch? Okay, we were playing before the men, so it was a double header, blah, blah, blah. But where are the family offers? Where are the, hey, listen, I'm going to reduce this price because I'm going to get Sandy, 3 kids and a husband to come in. It's a family of 5. I know when that family of 5 come in, they're going to need refreshments, they're going to need this. Hey, let's put a bit of face paint on in the corner. The young ones are going to want their face. Like, there are things that can be done, but the ticket pricing needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. We come from a working class sport. We were generated from a working class background. Therefore, as much as we've evolved and moved on, and we've got nice the men have got nice salaries. That doesn't. The men have got toilets, changing rooms.
Have you been to the gents? Oh, you can't.
No.
This is a family show, is it?
I have been to Castle Dressing Room before. It wasn't missing much, however. But I think that for me is really key. Like, we're missing the matchday experience, which some clubs do phenomenally well. But it's a real basic thing. Like, so 3 of my friends went to come and watch. They haven't missed a game, and I've been playing. They've watched games where I've been injured and I've just been on the sidelines. They didn't come. I wouldn't let them come. £66 for a family of 3 to come and watch we play on Saturday night.
In the rain.
In the rain.
In Castleford. I mean, what more can you say?
I was going to say halfway through the men's game, my friend went to the bar of the men's game at half time and they'd run out of beer.
Well, on a good note, Leeds United ran out of pies at half time because my daughter was not happy. So
I think your daughter's watching.
Is she? Oh, God.
Yeah.
Hi.
Do you like Bovril?
She does like Bovril.
Yes.
Oh,
I think
that is like something that
what
needs
we're
to-
saying is that to appeal to a broadcaster, which basically funds everything, we have to have the broadest church that we can offer them the next time the deal comes around to be renegotiated. So if you've got a women's competition that is Super League in more than just name, if you've got a men's competition that maybe has to be slightly altered in terms of what you're promoting, and I do think that is where you decide the standards be your first port of call and geography your second port of call. You have a nines element which ties into nines that are being played as a global offering, because we don't have a global offering at the moment. We have a lot of really, like when we spoke to Rob Bergin, we have some fantastic volunteers that are trying to promote the sport in areas where it's really hard to get a toehold. So to have a nines offering where it's a bit quicker, you don't need as many people, you can play 4, 5, 6 games on one afternoon. You can roll it into this leads to that, and there's going to be an American Championship which is going to play the winners of the Canadian Championship. We're going to play in the the winners of the South American Championship, and there's going to end up at Old Trafford before the women's and the men's grand final. There's going to be a global nines final. So you can
at the end of the day,
offer a broadcaster more than one version of rugby league, and that's what we have to do.
And the thing is, because obviously the nines would be shorter games, you'd have a festival. It'd be a festival occasion, like the IPL. It'd be a festival, so you might have 8 teams, so it's 4 games, entertainment so there's so much going on. So it's not, it's only a 20-minute game. I'm not going to go watch. If you make it an event, 18-minute game, just to make it. So for me, it's all about an event. It has to be an event.
And that's what you're talking about. So we need to involve people. Well, here is a version that doesn't have to be either or, but something that can attract either a different or a more conglomerate audience.
And it's not going to be taking away of the current players who are playing, because the game is shorter. You can attract any athletes who might want to be part of it. So we're not taking away Castleford players or Leeds Rhinos players to play it. We can literally start creating a different set of athletes because the game is different.
But I also think that there's the other thing the 100 has shown us is that if you actually want to be radical, and I think we're at a point where we need to even think about what the word radical means, is we could have a nines-based tournament here at a professional level where the teams are not the same teams that play in Super League, that they are these, if you like, 8 super teams.
Yeah.
And
it's like a draft pick, isn't it?
Well, then players from other clubs play for teams you don't expect them to, but they go back to play 13-a-side. So Gareth O'Brien plays for the Southern Braves, or whatever our equivalent is, who people see on a Wednesday night playing in this all singing, all dancing, highly entertaining competition. Yeah. He becomes the most valuable player. But then he goes back and plays 13s at Castle, and people go, I like him. I need to know who he plays for every week.
Us sports fans follow athletes more than teams.
Yes, well, young people.
Yeah, I'd like to still think I'm young, but anyway.
That's the building up the personality
The
aspect.
new generation, if you look at who they follow, so if you look at Ronaldo, for example, he has more followers than every single club he's ever played for put together. And that's a trend that happens in every sport. So if we know, that is obvious. It's not hidden research.
And we actually have those personalities. And the one thing about some of this weekend's games is that the stars have been young players.
Yeah.
I just think Jack Wellsby at the moment is one of the most marketable products that we have. Yeah,
when he's not been smacked by Willie Isa.
But that's all part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but then that's I think everyone loves a hero and a villain.
Yeah.
And Willie Isa, as much as whatever was, he was on his period or something, wasn't he? Let's be fair. He needed to go and change his sanitary towel. As grim as that might sound, that's the way I can describe it.
It's a nice analogy.
Thanks.
But that's what I mean. Like, as much as a traditional rugby league player or a fan might be like, that was disgusting, he said, there's somebody out there that's gone, oh, he's a nasty piece of work, isn't he?
Pantomime villain.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is, and I don't agree with what I did, by the way. Just to clarify to you all, I don't know.
Which has brought a 4-match ban.
But we are condemning it. But we're not condemning it.
Yeah, I don't agree. I'm soft, aren't I? I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Women's Super League for next year, so to play out this year.
Well, we've already been asked a question about this because Tony's been on. Am I correct in thinking Widnes will be in Super League next season after beating rivals Barrier State? Who knows?
I would say that one thing we need to get away from with the Women's Super League is following the pattern of the Men's Super League. So you've seen now and will have watched as an assiduous student of the women's game on Twitch and our league the games in the Women's Southern Super League.
Yep.
So I'm sitting at a desk at Red Hall going, how do we plan them? We've got all your little counters going.
Like that.
He's going this division. I would now be saying that you don't keep them separate.
No.
You bring the best of the South into the Super League. So next year, maybe you should be playing Bedford.
I'd love nothing more than to travel to Devon and Cornwall. Genuinely.
Oh, they've got lovely shirts, haven't they, Cornwall?
Oh, I love Cornwall.
But the geographical footprint of Women's Super League should not follow the men's teams.
No, but like we've expanded more than the men's team have. We're
But
no
you
longer on
can-
the
but it's
62.
separate.
At the
And I
minute,
get
that's
it.
what I mean. And I understand. The only...
I mean, Cardiff, to take them as an example,
Yeah.
who are virtually the Welsh team,
Yeah.
who I think we spoke about last time you were in, we just had the international. They have been sensational. And if you can, almost like the Catalan Dragons are representative of a region, if Cardiff are the Welsh team in all
Yeah.
but, and you can get,
Well, they've got their final, haven't they, against the Army?
yeah, but if you can get other regions playing the game where the cream could, and Ireland have had their own domestic trial.
Yep.
If you could get a team from Ireland playing every week in the Women's Super League, that's how you're going to develop not just the talent pool but the sport, and it sort of goes alongside what you're trying to do with the CCCCCCC.
Can you just say triple CRL? You like to annoy.
I enjoy it.
The thing is, you
All
fight every time as well. He's gone fishing, it's quite a big one.
It's almost,
That's why he likes to talk to me, you see. Every time I come to the bookshop, it's like, oh, I can have fun now.
It's almost like those two go together in some way.
Yeah.
That although they're different versions of the same sport, you don't have to follow an existing blueprint.
And that's what we're saying, we're not, you don't have to be one or the other. Why can't you be both? One supports the other, in my mind. And just, it's about how can we just embrace a different way of doing something and making sure we learn from that. So even though we've got a plan, we've got a strategy, we are working to it, we want to make sure that we are learning along the way, that we don't repeat things that didn't work out.
So you've announced 6 cities so far.
Yes.
3 in the east,
Yes.
3 in the west.
Yeah.
And for our audience, who I know follow everything you do assiduously on Twitter, which are those cities?
So the East will be Montreal, Toronto, and Hamilton.
Have they got wacky names yet? Or they...
So the team names will be announced at the end of September.
Ooh.
Okay. So we are working on that.
I mean, you're doing this all wrong because what you're supposed to do is release a load of merchandise and then.
And the west.
And in the West will be Vancouver, Calgary, and Regina.
So you are talking about 6 of the biggest cities in one of the leading sporting nations in the world.
Yeah, so what we did was we obviously did our research in terms of different cities, etc. But we did go out to the fans on social media and say, where in Canada would you like to have a team? And we did do a lot of research on 50 locations, and it was about population, demographics, facilities. Facilities have to be important. There's no point in going to a city in our first year where they don't have the pitch, whether it's a university one or a professional, do you know what I mean? So we had to do our research that way. And that's where we came up with our 6, because we need to make sure that we were picking locations that were sustainable if we do things right.
It's funny that, isn't it, with the state that men's rugby league here is in at the moment.
People will still mark because they'll say the picture's got too many different markings on it.
At the end of the day, remember, we are going to be a grassroots development. We're starting,
but,
so
but
it's
it's
still...
a template.
It is,
Yeah.
I think
totally.
somebody pointed this on Twitter. I'm not taking any credit for this at all. But if North Wales Crusaders win this week, who are they playing?
So you've got my
Playing
paper.
Rochdale.
I've got no idea what's going on there.
Then there is a possibility that the top team in Super League will be Catalan, the top team in the Championship will be Toulouse, and the top team in League One will be North Wales Crusaders. You can't ignore that the sport evolves and that some of the traditions that need to be preserved and the areas where it has been strong need a reason to carry on. And the greatest example of that at the moment is Batley, who are doing fantastic things in the Championship. But you also have to look at, if you did have that blank sheet of paper moment, how would you draft something out? You've almost got the opportunity to get to that in the Women's Super League, I think. You certainly have with wheelchair.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Martin Coyd on here who said, which you can read in the new
That's number 2.
They're planning on having 40 teams in 4 conferences of 10, and that includes Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England. So he's already looking ahead and saying, well, we've got 10, and it's sort of working at the moment, but this is where I'm going to have my 40 teams for maximum impact.
Yeah.
You're doing the same.
Yeah.
There's no reason why whatever the men are coming up with for professional rugby league in this country shouldn't be thinking along the same lines, in my opinion, which is why this is exciting.
Yeah, and having people like Danica on the committee or on the board, helping behind the scenes, is about using their knowledge, the years that they've had in the sport and the experience that they've had in the sport, whether it's through a coaching role or a player role, it's about using the information and try to translate that into how can we learn from that and implement something different using the information. Because players, for example, I think their knowledge is like gold dust, and if we just listen to them more.
Well, there's another aspect to that, which is player welfare, which I
Yes.
know you're incredibly.
Yeah.
That is built into
It
your
is,
constitution.
yeah.
That, again, what's happening in the world by way of more and more players getting more serious injuries in later life, you're going to try and prevent as much of that as possible, because you're now aware that it is something that a governing body has to take responsibility for.
It has to, because when you're trying to obviously get kids involved at a younger age, it's about giving parents the confidence that we are trying our best to proactively look after their kids when they are playing with us. And partnering up with Quadrant for the research element, we feel it's very important. We want to be part of that. It's about taking our time and making sure we're doing it right. But player welfare, whether it's on the field or off the field, mental health and things like that, we want to be there to support them, and not feel that they're pressurized to play, even though they're injured, and supporting them behind the scenes on that. So we are really working hard on trying to get a plan.
So as well as taking on a strategic role in how the competition might look, you're going to take on a mentoring role with some of the women athletes and looking after their...
She's free.
Yeah. That's a wicked opportunity.
Exciting.
That's a wicked opportunity. I remember the days of 2017 when Castleford were a brand new, the Super League soft launch. I remember Kelsey Gentles being 16, 17 on the side of the pitch, and I'm not saying I've affected or influenced her, but I remember going over pretty much every couple of times we used to play her and putting my arm and going, look, you are digging deep, keep going. And look at her now, she's the face of women's rugby, and she's wicked, and she's obviously out with injury at the minute, which is unfortunate, but, I've not seen her, I have really seen her go. She came in when she was a young kid. Caitlyn Beavers is probably one of my most favourite people in Rugby League at the minute. I cannot say enough good things about her. And she joined Leeds Rhinos at 16 years old, and was a kid. And then she's had to really man it. For me, Caitlyn Beavers has gone from a 16-year-old girl who loves playing rugby and loves refereeing. She started our first ever game at for Leeds and came on out of the academy. Didn't even play for the academy, so was never really essentially in it. Then went on. So her refereeing has always been from strength to strength. But in the first couple of years, she was top try scorer for Leeds. She'd basically won us both semi-finals with her breaks. Wow. She was famous for her footwork and making a dart. If there's any open space, Caitlyn Beavers is through it and going to score tries. As a Leeds player, she should have been up there in contention for the first ever Woman of Steel, just because she was so phenomenal. And you go back to that whole, do you watch players rather than watching people? Then she went on to be the first female referee at Wembley, and then she's doing all of the merchandise for the World Cup. She's doing, her status from a 16-year-old and what she's been through the mill. And there's been points in that where you've had to go, Caitlyn, take a step back a minute, come off your little pedestal a second, which you have been forced on. And she takes it all to the point where there's a part on Saturday, where, bearing in mind she's 20 years old and I'm 37 in a few weeks' time. So the age gap is ridiculous. The age gap is ridiculous, but on the field, there is nobody I listen to more than Caitlyn Beavers. There's nobody that directs me more, there's nobody that supports me more. And we had a dropout, and it was wet, and I'm not very confident catching high balls. Mainly because in the women's game they don't often come as far as me. But Tara Stanley and Faye Gaskin kick the length of the field. Apart from that, it generally hits half, and then I get offloaded it. And Tara Stanley and I have played at England together, and one of my biggest things at England was dropping the high balls. And it's a pressure thing. I can do it, and in training, I can do one-handed, I can do it backwards. When it comes to a game, it's the thing I have. And Caitlyn, there's a part, we had our first dropout, and she came across the field, and she was like, it's my ball. It wasn't. It was clearly mine, but she knew. But I've seen that develop, and if I don't say I've ever helped Caitlyn, but having the arm around, whether saying, take a step back, have a word, or she is desperate to play fullback for England, but she's competing against the likes of Tara, etc. For me, she's the best fullback I've ever played with. And I've played with Jodie, I've played with Tara, I've played with Sharboos. And she has developed. If I can just it's an arm around the shoulder type thing. I think it's that big sistery type thing. And if there's a girl that comes in and comes from a dancing background, comes from a netball background, comes from something, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll tell you where your skills are transferable into rugby league.
And this is why, one of the reasons why we wanted you on board, because what we're trying to say to people is, look, you don't have to have played union or league to be part of this. You could be a professional qualified dancer, or you can be whatever it is. You know, it's about having those stories, telling those stories to people, to say, oh, so I've been training on something completely different, but it just is about how do I transfer that across. And it's about getting as many athletes as we can who've got those transitional stories that we can storytell for them and showcase to the new generation that you don't have to be the typical roadmap to be a player, because you have to play union or league or whatever from the age of 8, and then you don't have to do that.
But
So
Courtney Hill is the epitome of that story, isn't it? She came over to the UK in 2018, having played
Big Bash cricket.
Big Bash cricket. I played a bit of touch when she was 12, and then within 18 months was Woman of Steel.
Yeah.
That is the story, isn't it? That is the
there's
the
so
old
many
story.
of those that people don't know.
But we can't restrict ourselves to the traditional proving grounds of rugby league, because a lot of those don't
Oh, yeah.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
Schools don't automatically play rugby league on the curriculum. It's a broader base of athlete being produced.
And the one thing a lot of people don't realise outside of Canada is that rugby league isn't a recognised sport in Canada. That is an issue.
It's not a recognised sport in England. Mr. Elston's got a new job.
Yes, Eric's taken over, I understand.
Oh, is it Eric?
It's Eric now,
Oh, it's Eric Perez.
Well, the lights on. I was going to ask you, Danica, because obviously all your players, all your mates, they all want to play rugby league, blah, 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 blah. Not all of them want to be celebrities, all this, that and the other.
No.
So I can understand not all of them want to be in front of camera or whatever, but how do we get players to... those who are more
Shy.
extroverted to
Thanks,
just
Eric.
checks in the post.
No, it isn't. Not if it's Eric. It's promised. Oh, sorry.
How do we get those who want to be more extrovert to be more accessible on social media? We need to find some new stars.
Yeah.
And we need to find Ronaldo, but we haven't got Ronaldo.
Are we not? Surely.
I think that comes from, and it was something that I was thinking about this, having spoken, we had a meeting the other week, and how difficult is it for somebody who is, so the communications officer, director, the media officer, whatever, how about they just, Danica, here's a picture of you, for example, here's a picture of you playing last week, how about you put this on Instagram, how about you tweet this out, how about you put this caption on, so I don't have to think about anything or do anything, but it's come from somebody that, and then it's things like the hashtags or the stuff that I don't know about, or promoting. I'm not into that. I know there's certain times of day you're meant to. I'm lying in bed at 12 o'clock at night and I put it on. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am not particularly good at that side of the social media stuff. I put a lot of rubbish out there, but I don't do it. But I don't do it for anybody else. So sometimes I just throw it out, and I was like, everyone look at my nephew because he's the most beautiful thing in the world, type thing. But I think it comes from.
He is,
like,
right?
I know he is. He's a good tone. He's just But like what
Cats,
about if
cats for me?
cat went missing the other day, caused no end of problem. But like what about if I was a girl and there's a girl and I'm like, right, just say like I am linked to the Vancouver team. Right, ladies, take a picture of yourself. Like promote the fact that you're playing. How about you put something like I'm just on board. Hashtag pop it out about 6 o'clock at night because that's prime time or whatever. I don't know, there'll be some youngsters that'll tell me when the time is. But and then everyone's just got one time, and then all of a sudden there's a flurry of like hashtags for rugby league or that's an element of things, and then they become more.
It's about engaging with the players on what they are comfortable. If we just tell them what to
helping,
do,
isn't it? Like,
and guiding them, educating them. If we're asking you to put stuff on social media, we will help you. We will guide you.
But the likes of Shah Booth, who's out in Australia, can hold a conversation, can have an interview after a match, but as a character is hilarious.
Well, this is the thing where, I mean, Gav says here, for the love of God, give them media training. Arguing with fans and taking the mick out of them isn't the way. That's true, and that's a different thing. But
the corollary to that is what John Wilkins says in his column,
which was very interesting. Yeah.
don't give them media training. The best people have opinions. Encourage them to have opinions. So I think it's that balance between don't be anodyne.
There's such a fine line.
I mean, the problem with Premier League football, in my opinion, is there's never any point watching a pre-match interview or a post-match interview because the winners are going to say X and the losers are going to say Y, and it never varies.
Yeah.
It's really, really tedious. So actually, if you've got let's use him again, Jack Wellsby.
Yeah.
And he's got an opinion. Educate him to use his opinion. Encourage him to have an opinion. Don't media train it out of him.
Well, you mean the way that Super League stopped players commenting last year about Izzy Folau?
Well, and as our friend Mr. Davidson will tell you, again, one of the stars in the game at the moment had a magnificent game against Wigan, Lewis Dodd. But he's not being put up for interview
one thing
by St Helens, and he needs to be, because we need,
no, but
we
there
need
is,
to know if
there
he
is
is
a fine
related to Ken Dodd, and if he is from Notty Ash. We
but,
need to know
yeah,
that.
but there's that fine line, so like, for me...
But it,
like
the
I
fine
speak
line
to...
is you setting it.
Yeah, but so it's like I speak to people and about if Danny Anderson was playing this season, when Danny Anderson plays in the World Cup, she will get player of the match or she will be a standout forward. She will be pulled for interview. The girl is happy doing an interview if you pre-prep her, if you tell her the questions, if you on the spot get Danny, you will not get what you need. Not what you want, but what you need, because Danny will tell you very slowly and in very few words the answer. What she needs to have is how do you take a question and then develop it, and that's the kind of media training we need.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to fans and stuff, I get like we have to be super careful because there's a super fine line between having an opinion and and then upsetting a lot of people and just becoming, it's not even a villain, but you just become hated, which is horrible, and then therefore you get an array of abuse or of anything like that. But you do the training is how to answer a question, not what answer to give. So
yes,
it's a fine line.
The training is to get your personality into the answer, but be prepared for the question.
But it's also to prepare them for if there is negativity coming out of it. How do we as a league support them in those negative messages? And that's why, even though we're talking about we want to develop characters within our own league, we will support them in understanding the fine line between opinion and so on, and know how, because we're all on social media, and it's not nice to get insults because some of us take it personally. So I'm one of those individuals.
Worst podcast ever, by the way.
I'm one of those people that.
That's the only reason I've come on it.
but still watched it enough to put that on it.
Thing is, so you have some people who, like me, take everything personally, for example, but you have some people who will take a negative comment and turn it into a positive. And it's knowing how to support those players who are more on that side.
As Gav points out, any time a player swears on telly, always brilliant, always funny.
It is.
It's never.
It's
not.
funny how you can
Can I
always
tell you
hear it though.
Can I tell you what happened on Saturday night?
Come on.
So, me and Beth Lockwood finished playing. Cass are playing Wakefield afterwards. We stay afterwards, but we're in kit. I'm dressed
Still.
head to
Was that because
toe.
you didn't have a change in it?
Well, I got changed in the stand. I changed my shirt in the stand, kept my socks in. No, I changed my socks. Anyway, Beth and I were quite clearly Leeds
That is on
Rhinos.
TikTok.
Yeah, Beth and I quite clearly Leeds Rhinos. And just before the game kicks off, a Castleford Tigers fan came up to me and asked me for a picture, and then she said, "Shh, don't tell anybody. I'm a secret fan." It's out. It's out. But then we spent the whole time, we got a bit of a glare every now and then, and I was just like, hi. But what we then did is, we were behind, just in front of the band and the drums and stuff. We were bouncing and singing, and we were just like...
You hate Wakefield, don't you? You hate Wakefield. You like Cass now, you hate Wakefield. You should sing with the Cass.
No, I was cheering for Wakefield. It was one of those things where Castleford have got a bank of songs that they just continually play, and there were a few of them I wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good one. Constantly. Yeah.
My favourite was "You're Just a Small Town from Wakefield," and I was like,
no, they are. That's what they are.
And I was like, just a small town from Wakefield is that it's grammatically incorrect, but
yeah.
But anyway, we were just like, and then Wakefield get the ball, and then me and Beth would cheer, and then we'd be like, oh. But it was so much fun because we were in there. But there were a few people that I think had given the opportunity probably to punch me in the face, and that's fair because I'm a bit of a pain in the butt.
You're lovely.
She's only had a portion of me.
actually.
tasted,
The,
yeah.
the secret Danica Prim fan club you can sign up on Facebook. I mean, Phil, we would never in a post-match interview with anyone ever try and stitch them up by asking a stupid question, because there's no point asking about anything controversial because they're never going to ask. But you want to develop a relationship where they might
want
speak
to
in the
come and
future.
speak to you,
I think the danger at the moment is we've gone down this route of Zoom for everything. So post-match, you can only speak to the coaches on Zoom. You don't even have to have been at the game reporting it. You can still get access to the Zoom. There's no mix zone for players anymore, so you can't develop that relationship. And the problem with that is that I think once restrictions are fully lifted, we're still going to keep that.
Yeah.
And we're going to distance journalists from players, and that's very dangerous. So, there's no reason now in a properly controlled area, wearing a mask and socially distanced, that the press who are at matches can't now have access to.
It's very difficult at Women's Super League games because I don't know anyone. There's no press people to speak to, so I just get Danica's saying.
I know, I've just been your dog's body every time, haven't I?
But I just
Which I
think
don't mind, anytime.
we need to be careful.
Even
of
though
that.
she's like a favourite to
Oh, well,
some
yeah,
people.
but I can't interview every week, can I? So
I haven't even been playing this year or anything. I haven't been selected.
great cleaning of the balls there. How do you feel? Can't do that.
But the thing is, I remember a couple of years ago, somebody was asking me about about my view about rugby league in the UK, and I said the one thing I've noticed, and I don't know why, is why are players not marketed as assets? Like if you look at North America, and by the way, I'm not saying North America is the most, idealistic, sporting market. But what I'm saying
it's Disney
is,
World. Everything's Disney World.
what I'm saying is, why are the players not allowed, or why don't teams see players as assets? Because I only knew when the Wolfpack players because there was nothing else happening on social media that I kind of.
I mean, again, we talked long and with yourselves and with other people about the value of the North American market as opposed to who was an owner of the Wolfpack at a particular time.
Totally, yeah.
One of the things that seemed to work more than anything, because it doesn't even happen in this idealistic world of America's sport, is the accessibility of the players post-match.
That is truly unique.
So that, you do walk over and have a beer with the fans. You do speak to them about the game that you've just had. You can have pictures taken with them if you're a kid. And
I remember the first time it happened here, I'm thinking, hold on a minute, the game's just finished and the players are just coming.
And they do go in the bars after.
They do.
I mean, clearly that's all changed with COVID, but we need to bring that back as soon as it's feasible to do so.
Yeah.
The accessibility of the player is something the sport needs to sell.
That is one of the things that makes rugby league so unique, and that is why in North America, especially with Toronto, it was a sport that really intrigued people. Like, you're a professional, and we just spoke to you and took a picture. Because normally in the NHL or whatever, every meet and greet that there is so clinical that you could be waiting 3 hours to see a player, and then if it's after an hour, it just is just so different. And what I think that I love that. I think that link to the community is so important. But you can still have that and look at sport as a commercial element. You don't have to lose one if you focus on the other. It's about getting the right balance.
Well, this is why I'm in favour of the players if they want to, because obviously I wouldn't want to push a player into doing something they don't want to. To do things like social media properly, take us behind the scenes of their lives. And I'm not saying, show us everything, warts and all, but
why not?
send us some stuff. Put together a vlog about what you're doing at training or what you're doing at home.
It's funny, I got asked to put together, I'm just putting it together because I'm not very media savvy, technologically savvy, but I've got like a day, I've been asked to do like a day in the life of the game day, if that makes sense. And so it's things from
getting changed on the bus.
I mean, I had to omit some things, and now obviously after some things I did, but I'm just putting it together. But it's like stupid things like get up, I brew my coffee, I play a bit of solitaire on my phone, and then I'm like, I've got to rehydrate because I've had something, or my breakfast, my pre-match meal, which is horrific but great. Like travelling to getting on the boat, like things like that. And there are girls. It is such an overwhelming feeling at the minute, though, for me during the women's game, because when we were having the Women's Super League launches, and we were having them at Leeds Beckett, and all the teams were invited, and we'd have the the chat about the season, then we'd have the chat about drugs, then we'd have a chat about the betting and the media and the head concussion stuff. And it came to the media stuff, and they were like, don't do this, don't do this, don't say this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, but feel free to post online. And you're just a bit like...
So just retweeting,
like,
just retweet.
But then that makes... So I've often said, the girls often like at training go, oh, I've heard you on this, or I heard you on that, you were great, you were brilliant. And it just... Like, my favourite kind of feedback is from the girls, because they will tell you...
The truth.
What's
Like, yeah, and after the England game, a lot of the England girls went out of their way to message you saying, like, thank you, which is so lovely. And then one of the girls at training was just like, why, how? And I think back to when I first came on here, I reckon if I watched that back, compared to how I am now, I'm much more relaxed, I'll probably speak far too much or say too much.
Well, that's what some ex-players say. Yeah.
Well, it is what it is, isn't it? If you don't like it, just tell us you don't like it. You'll carry on watching. But then there are some girls that you can see that they want to know it, but A, how do they do it? And B, how do you let them know that, yes, you are going to be a bit stiff, or you're going to be a bit cautious, or you're going to... But you will get into swing of doing it.
I mean, A, the door is always open here. I know it's difficult because
The
you're
hinges are...
allowed in because you write for the magazine.
At the end of the season, I'll bring a couple of girls down.
But, you know, the door...
We'll do some training.
But I say that to every club. The door is open on these programmes for players to come
I
in.
think as long as you've got a bleep machine for your day in the life, you'll be fine.
I'm actually not the worst.
I would imagine not. I think it's the ones you think are the quietest that are the worst.
Stop.
Anyway, before she gets herself in trouble, Phil, she's not going to come back if you put her in trouble like that.
She'll always.
I'll always come back. This is where I started.
But
She's got celebrity
This
friends
is where
now.
I'll finish.
But it is about supporting the players and
Absolutely.
whether it's with what language to use, you know, how to say stuff if they don't feel they've got the vocabulary.
But I think it's also about personality.
it
Don't
is.
subvert
No.
Yeah.
personality by saying, don't say anything.
And this is why it's about understanding the player and what they're comfortable with and where their strong points are and maximize the strong elements, because even though you might be an introvert,
I think that's where you need to do that as a governing body.
Well, that's what
and
we're
I'm
trying
not
to do.
sure that's ever happened before. There's guidelines put out, there's training given that is one size fits all. But I'm not sure that it isn't. Well, it's probably better if I don't say anything then, because then I'm not going to get into trouble.
Sorry, go on.
No, but what you want is, for example, if I'm in Vancouver, I'm going to the girls, I'm going to go be with them for a week or two. I need to get to know them. I'm not going to speak to them and go, hi, what's your name, what do you do? I'm going to be like, right, girls, who's the funniest? Who's the smelliest? Who farts the time? It's like, that's the
We're
stuff.
going out to a
Girls
nightclub.
don't
Who's going to be the last person going home?
Who eats the most? Who forgets something? Who's
Someone should be on TV, by the way. Her food things are amazing.
Yes, I know. That's. I mean, she is her own personality, isn't she? Because the slimmest person on
But
the
that's
bloody
something
field.
that could be, if anyone had the gumption to think about it, that could be something that
She did
could be
score a
parlayed
try in
into
slow
something.
motion, though.
Yeah, she did. But she got one.
What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. But no, I'll tell you what I was going to say. So you, obviously, as a rugby player, you're trained to play rugby. You have an innate ability to do it, and that is then improved by coaching.
Mm.
People won't believe this, but it's not as easy as just setting up a laptop, turning it on, and just speaking.
No.
Highly trained professionals, me and Phil.
Don't
He
pull
doesn't
me
do
into
that.
this.
You can't just pitch up on TV and talk about rugby league. You've got proper training to do what you've done and get where
Do you know
are.
what? No,
I'm
it's
not
not
going to say
even-
you're lucky to have that, but you can tell people on TV who haven't been taught the right way.
Do you know? It's not even about training. I've not had any official training. What I've had is, and it is luck. It's sheer luck. Like, and I am super overwhelmed every time I do something because I'm so grateful for it. And it's as cliche as it sounds, it's about who you know and what you know. You know, I went on Look North. So first of all, I was standing for Lois at the Leeds Sports Awards, and Tanya Arnold was hosting them, and she didn't know it was me, and she didn't know how to announce, and she was a bit flustered and walked on. She asked me some questions. I answered them quite well. I then went on to Look North when we won the grand final in 2019. From there, she just said, "Look, I'm hosting this event, or friends at, like, she's part of this event. Will you come and do a Q&A?" Because I managed to hold a conversation together. JD at BBC Radio Leeds, I've been on, he asked for us a couple to go on. End of 2018, he was like, "Danica, will you come and host the women's rugby show for an hour?" in front of me, he gave me like a loose script of things I should be saying, timings. Again, not official training, but he went through stuff with me. Tanya has been probably the most influential person, and I'm
great.
so grateful, because she'll text me and she'll be like, you need to just say this, and it's about being able to also take that criticism. It's completely constructive, and it's complete, and then I've worked with the likes of Dave Woods, who I really look up to, and I remember I was being we were at Hull KR, and I was sat with Dave and Terry O'Connor, whether you like him or not, he was like, oh, Danica, did you do the West Wales game with Widnes? He's like, oh, really well done. And that was the first time I'd co-com to the BBC, and I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, people listen, and then I'm super fortunate, I am so fortunate to do that and to be in that position, but it does come from listening to what is the hardest part of it is the feedback. I remember the West Wales game, I was getting texts from the producers saying, you need to not say this, or you need to do this, or you need to that, and it's about reading it and not panicking. But now I've done it, I feel like I could, right girls, it's things like, if I talk about Rudgie or Amy or who I'm talking about, I need to tell you about Emily Rudge or Jodie Cunningham or Courtney Winfield, and it's just the tiny little things that I've got that knowledge now, and I'm super privileged to have it, so why am I not going to use it with the girls? If you get asked a question and you're not sure, re-answer the question as you're speaking.
Yeah.
It gives you time to process it. It's not so much training, but tips. It's tips.
Totally, yeah.
It's tips, and I think I'm super grateful for Tanya and for Dave and for JD and stuff, because, and then ultimately here, this is where...
And Barry.
Oh, because when
professionals.
Barry rang me just to say, don't worry about it, he came and checked in on me,
Props
you know. Yeah, he's an absolute babe. He doesn't need to do that, And John Wells, when we did the England game, he was like, oh, maybe don't talk when it's in their 10 or that 10. I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's something you don't think about. But, it's...
But you can tell those who haven't been told that. That's the thing, and that's what... I wrote about that in a
Have they, or did they not just listen? Or did that's the thing, isn't it?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Exactly, yeah.
6 and 2 threes.
Every broadcasting place wants to make it do well, and so they're going to have feedback. But I think if I watch back our first podcast, I reckon I was probably a bit stiff and a bit square. And now I'm like, stop talking, I am.
Yeah, but it's the same with writing. If you reread what you'd written 15, 20 years ago, you'd be going,
I'll never be good
I'd
at
phrase
writing.
that completely differently, or why did I have that opinion when now I believe something? Yeah, that is the process
But
of
it's having
refining your...
how many times, Phil, you had to cover for me last season because I wrote something quite controversial.
You? Well, I have to reconsider this.
I've read some of the things you have got in that magazine.
No, but it wasn't. So in my opinion, still, it wasn't that controversial. However, it was taken and it was blown up, or it was whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And then I'm not going to not give my opinion. However, the way I word it now, or the way I get it across, what I do is Phil, I'm ringing you because I'm going to tell you what my article is, so you can rewrite it in a more constructive way. But I'm confident doing that now. Whereas a year ago, when I first got asked, I would have been like, oh, okay, I'll try.
Well, when Phil asked me to write the first one about me going down to Toronto for the £1 million game, all I did was I literally wrote text messages in chunks, and he just stitched it all up because
and made you sound incredible.
I know. I'm like, that is exactly what I said. It just sounds better. So I was texting while at the airport or at the game. And
but if you had to do it again, you would do it in a slightly different manner, in the knowledge that having read what it became.
Yeah, because
as long as it's your voice.
Oh yeah, it was definitely all. It was all my experience of flying that for 4 days to Toronto and losing my voice and all that kind of stuff. It was all me. It was just how do you construct it in a way that sounds like it is without it being voice, like a text.
But then that's what whole part of this new, the Triple CRL is about, is how we can take these things now.
Absolutely.
And completely, it's, for me, whether I just do an advisory thing for the first year and never see it through or whatever, as long as I can pass on bits and pieces, I can speak to a team or I can speak to the girls and just be like, right, here, this is what you need to think about when you finish playing. Or this is what you need to think about if you're going to be asked pre-match. Because you don't want to be arrogant and be like, yeah, we're going to beat them. You don't want to be defeatist and say, oh my God, they're going to lose. Every question that's asked about your opposition, you turn into a question about you. You know, Cat have been training really hard. Excuse me. What do you think about they're going to be going about? Oh, yeah, I think they have. However, we've been training our way. We've been working on this, and you just and then therefore you're not caught out. You're not sounding arrogant. You're not, and it's just that's a piece of information that people don't think about, and there it's out. That's
but it's not only obviously trying to do the research on how to develop the game for the women's, but also the training elements, how developing the players. So the person we've got behind the scene, which we will announce soon who it is, who's in charge of player development, this person knows how to develop the men's game. But this person isn't an expert on how to develop the women's game. So it's using people who currently play the game, whether it's in Canada or the UK or Australia, where it's already developed, and learning from their current experience and developing something unique that would suit us and what we're trying to do.
I just think as a rugby league fan and someone who's been trying to promote everybody needs to play this game or experience this game. If you're going to call yourself the greatest, you can only prove that you are by allowing as many people to play it as possible, not the fewest number to keep it in-house. What you're doing is exactly what the sport needs at this moment in time. And even if it's a community-based competition, the prospect that it has and the fact that it's being built from the ground up rather than we'll start in an ivory tower and hopefully fill in the foundations underneath, which is the history of rugby league. And as again, Brian Noble has said to me on many an occasion when he's been doing his column, this isn't expansion, it's growth. If you stop calling it expansion, because expansion immediately puts up barriers. Oh, you're expanding at somebody else's expense. No, it's just natural growth. And if it is, and you can do it, then what you're doing at the moment, I see as a blueprint for the future of the sport.
And the thing is, we're going to have hiccups. We know we're going to have hiccups. As long as we learn from them and we are transparent in our hiccups so that people know that we will say, yes, we got this wrong, but this is how we're going to fix it. I think people will support it because they know we're being honest and we are trying.
When even you look back to how did Toronto get into the professional ranks over here in the first place, it's that people here could see that a new audience was being attracted to a sport that they had no right to know anything about. So when an amateur international between Canada and America gets 8,000 people, irrespective of whether they've paid for tickets or not, but it's part of a beer festival and it's filmed and it goes out on a television channel that's sort of recognised and that television channel's actually paid some money to have that documentary made. And then you come over here and go, well, we've had some money, we've got some players and we've got some crowd and we've got some corporate sponsorship, and actually we're just scratching the surface of this. People here go, hang on a minute, we need to buy into all of this.
And the thing is, what we're trying to do is to bring the fans along the journey. So obviously at the moment we're keeping some stuff confidential because we're trying to get the foundations, but when we can say more things and when we are having our first game next year, as part of the AGM we would tell the members what the next 12 months will look like, so they are part of it.
I would imagine you're looking at live streaming options so that people here that have spent a year waiting for Vancouver to play Calgary can actually see the highlights of that game or part of that game, or it's a festival where I can tune in at 2 a.m. drunk.
Drunk? On tea?
But
that's how you build an audience.
It's a favourable time difference as well, isn't it, for us?
Yeah.
But like you watched another thing that you're talking about, the fan base. If you'd seen any of the Toronto games or you'd watched any of the little documentaries, whether it be the Rugby AM or whether it be the BBC or whatever, the fan experience at Toronto looked insane. Like,
we've got to go Ulcana.
And the one thing that got forgotten in all of the rights and wrongs of having the Wolfpack and who owned it was that no Super League teams got to experience that.
Yeah.
So they made a decision on saying...
I think Hull did. That's why they dropped the thing. I know...
But there wasn't,
Not the whole... Yeah.
So you're making a decision on something you've not experienced, and the likelihood is you're probably going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And the diversity of the fans, anyone who's ever been... you couldn't deny the diversity in both age, race, families. It was just amazing to see, and
built from very little, very quickly.
Yeah, And you can't deny it, whether you are a fan of Toronto or not, whether you agree with the decision, that's not what I'm talking about. But you cannot deny the good work that was done to build what they have. You
and
can't
Sky
deny that.
took the games.
Mm-hmm.
With everything that's happened then, because Toronto Wolfpack, I remember distinctly reading an article in the Hockey News once about Bobby Orr, described him as Bobby Orr, old-time hockey. They described him as his career like a candle in the wind, and that's what Toronto Wolfpack were.
Thank you.
They were there and then they've gone. I know they're coming back, but it's not, Toronto Mark 1. It was such a short period of time that they existed. Why are you still involved in rugby league? Because we kicked you asunder, we've replaced you with Lee, we hate Toronto and all them foreign people and everything. Why are you still involved?
So for me, it's more of a connection that, 4 years ago, and I've said it many times, even though I was living in Leeds, I had no idea what rugby league was. Leeds Rhinos are...
Unfortunately, there's too many people.
Yeah. Well, Leeds Rhinos are 10 minutes from my house, and I wasn't really aware. For me, it was just rugby, and I was very clearly told, very quickly, like, do not say that. So for me, when somebody told me about Toronto having a team, I'm thinking, what do you mean Toronto having a team? That's where I was born and raised. I went to the first game, my first game, which was against Salford, and it was the Challenge Cup game. Because with 3 kids, it's very difficult to be able to just drop everything and attend whatever game's around. And like I said, I had no idea what I was going to watch, but it was a Canadian team, so why not? And as you know, my flag was ready, and so I went. And I had no idea.
Every single bloody game. Yeah,
I had no idea what was going on, but I absolutely loved it. And then I started going to games, and I realized I don't like to go games on my own. And I wasn't like on my own I had my family, but I want to be with other people. So I started to tell expats about it on Facebook, the Canadians in the UK. And then I started telling people, I'm going to be going to this game, anyone? And I says, look, you might not like the sport or you might know about it, but at least you get to meet Canadians or whatever. And it slowly grew into a meetup of expats. So for me, what David, investing in Toronto, it wasn't just rugby as he intended, but for some of us like myself, it was a way of connecting to home. So for me, rugby league wasn't about the sport as such. Initially, it was about that building my own family of a community. Just like you've got your communities in Wakefield and Dewsbury or whatever, this was turning into our little community and seeing the same people every week or every 2 weeks. But our fans were coming from Scotland, from London, from Ireland. They're all over, the expats. And so for me, even though I fell in love with the sport, I want to give something back to it because it gave me so much in the very short space of time, which was a purpose, a belonging.
Which is exactly what Rob Bergin said when he was on, that that whole link with Latin America that he had in his family background, this was his way of putting something back into that community by selling them the dream of rugby league, which he loved.
And so when the Toronto thing happened, obviously I was devastated, and so was quite a lot of people, and I started to feel guilty that my kids were able to still watch the game, whether it's the Rhinos or whoever, they would still have access to that. And so when somebody approached me about this Triple CRL, I literally just took it and I said, I'm going to go with it because I want my friends that I've made in Canada through Rugby League and their kids to be able to, whether it's the grassroots level initially and then so on, I just felt that I needed to do something with the group of the people behind me to do something because it was the kind of,
Which I think is what's been lost in the men's professional game here. And that evangelical spirit that formed the game in the first place and should always be behind the decisions that are made as to how to move it forward has been lost in the vested interest that we've currently got.
And what could be lost further? I tweeted about it earlier, listening to the commentary podcast with Alan Robinson, who was very honest as much as he could because no one knows what's going to happen in the future. And,
the magazine doesn't.
Yeah.
Dave Musson. No, but Dave Musson, who does that podcast, writes about the league. I mean, again,
someone suggested we cut off the bottom 4, which is ridiculous.
Looking at the leagues, arguably the most competitive league of the 3 at the moment is League 1.
First one to.
Sorry,
Great.
somebody has to.
Well, I know, but I'm waiting till it finishes. That's my excuse.
But League One, when you look at the fixtures every week, I defy you to predict every result correctly. You know,
Well, I want to predict
Doncaster beating
Doncaster's beat
Barrow
Barrow
this
no.
weekend.
No.
You wouldn't have predicted that.
No.
North Wales Crusaders to beat Workington. You probably wouldn't have predicted that. And Rochdale and Hunslet drawing.
Hmm.
You know,
In the Alton Kilshaw derby. Yeah.
almost those results
Got
are
some
more
abuse.
unpredictable than what we saw in Super
Got
League.
some
this week.
abuse apparently from the Rochdale fans. Shake your heads.
I would say to whoever
If
does
they're
the Hunslet social media, calling your coach killer, probably not great.
I really don't like is journalists in press conferences just referring to players and coaches by nicknames. I don't know why I don't like it, but it just annoys me.
Like who?
Well, I'm not going to do it.
Come on.
No, but I get that because it's like, yeah,
It's a bit
like,
matey.
so we would call like,
But then it also means that there'll come a time where you want to ask a question that is somewhat critical of something they've done, but you can't because you're mates.
Mm.
But
there's a fine line, isn't there? It depends on.
yeah,
So like if I had a nickname and you call me it or JD did or whatever, that's slightly different because I feel like you're not now a journalist to me at all.
Well,
like,
not journalist.
no, but do you know what I mean? Like in that
Just
respect.
in case any anti-vaxxers want to come and invade me, the building.
But you don't
Gone down
get,
a whole rabbit hole there.
despite their apparent friendship, Laura Koonsberg saying, "So Bojo, why have you made
Oh,
that decision?"
no way.
It just
I
doesn't,
missed
it
that.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So Richard, I'm going to Wakefield on Monday.
Yes, the
so
home
tell me all about it.
The home of Rugby League is iconic because
It's fun.
it's the only Rugby League ground which has had a BAFTA-nominated film there, which is still
Really?
standing because Strum Hall obviously doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
And it looks exactly the
The
same as
same.
it did in that
No,
day
it
in
looks worse. It looks
1963
worse because
when
they've
it was.
not the flats. They've got the porta cabins on that side
Yeah,
now.
so I'm doing my tour. I might have a pie and continue on my tour
I'm
of
sure
the pie.
you'll get better food, won't you? In the hospitality, I thought the pie. Dear me.
I must admit the Wigan ones are really, really nice.
Well, that's what they're famous for, isn't it?
Mint
Yeah.
balls and pies.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know what the mint balls were until I got there because I thought it was like because obviously pie is a savoury. So when someone said try the mint balls, I thought it was like a stuffing. Like, why would you recommend candy and a savoury? Just doesn't
Wigan.
make any sense.
Wigan. It's Wigan.
They make baked beans
Wigan.
in Wigan as well.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, Wakefield is the home of Rugby League.
It's a home of rugby.
I just hope. I just hope.
That
It
ground has
doesn't
been there.
rain.
Queen Victoria was on the throne when that ground was
Well, I
there.
just hope it doesn't rain.
I've
'cause-
played there.
Have you?
Danica's played there. Yeah, I played there for school.
I scored my tries there.
I remember
My
it.
2 tries.
After the scoring try that I dropped the ball. Didn't
Yeah.
score a try.
Yeah.
I scored them at the same side.
Yeah.
Pretty much in the same spot.
But yeah, so after going to the Leeds game 2 weeks ago, my kids.
Well, I've got to say, having experience
It
heading
will
league,
be a different
it's going to be
experience.
slightly different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Beamish?
To where?
No.
Wonderful. Love Beamish.
Beamish is in the northeast of England. It's like it's a working museum.
It's
It's
an
like
industrial
how,
I've
museum.
never
how
heard of it.
life was in
Okay.
the old
Is that what it's
days.
like in Wakefield?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can say that because I'm from there, so it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got
and
changing rooms in Whitfield.
They've got Wi-Fi as well. If you still know the password.
Is there Wi-Fi? Oh.
Yeah, but
let
only
me
if you know the password.
Well, the thing is, I went to the Leeds United game on Saturday, and it's so hard to get reception because there's so much metal in the stadium that nothing ever works. And I'm always surprised that some people can actually get their phones to work.
Well, if you're going to be in the hospitality, you're surrounded by metal. There's the famous Benidorm Flats.
Right. Yeah, if this is the third time.
You're in
we've
for a
said-
treat.
Yeah. So. Yeah, the kids.
I like Wakey.
Yeah, the kids absolutely loved going to the Leeds game against Castleford. I was there to support Bodine and O'Brien, and I will always.
Yeah, but if you had to pick one, which one?
I can't, to be
If
honest.
you had to.
I
It's like
can't.
I'm gonna die unless you pick one. 3, 2,
It has to be
1.
Leeds.
That's all right.
No, just because the kids, like I said, I think.
Don't just justify it. Just hold it. It's fine.
No, I think what Leeds did on that game, the entertainment, the kids really, because it was the first rugby game since, Ethan just found out that Ashton is retired and there was no Wolfpack. He's 7. It was going to be very difficult to explain to a 7-year-old why his favorite team wasn't there. So we had to kind of explain that they're not there and so on. So he's now picked Pearl was his Conrad.
Well, it's all right when he goes
Hold
to
on,
Saints
hold
next
on,
year, then.
hold on.
He's off to St
He's
Helens.
only got 4 games and he'll be injured for all of those.
So in that game, we were trying to get him to pick, because he used to call Ashton the boss. That was his nickname with Ashton. So they used to banter on that. So that was okay, yeah. The boss and so on. And so now, so that was his player, the one that he really loved to talk to, etc. So we're trying to get a new player. And that's the one he picked because he said he looks like the Hulk.
Pick another.
He picked like the Hulk. He looks like the Hulk. And then 3 days later, I read, oh my God. So it's
might
not
have to
going
buy me some
well. It
Helen's
is
kit.
not going well. My plan.
Plenty of new stars on the horizon.
Yeah. So yeah, for a 7-year-old, it's trying to get him embraced into something new is not easy sometimes.
Blue and amber.
But he does love the
You
mascot.
would.
He does love the mascot. Had to buy him a cuddly toy thing. The kids, they've all got jerseys. Cost me a fortune, but anyway, they're happy.
Now they're on sale now.
Yeah.
I keep getting emails. Why do you keep? I keep getting emails. Lead stuff on sale. I don't want lead stuff.
At the end of the day, it's all about the
Unsubscribe?
kids and the new
course.
generation, and you do everything that if they are really engaged with rugby league because of the Rhinos or whoever it is, I'm happy with that, and because it's not what we as adults feel about the sport
Which
shouldn't
is
be
exactly going back to the
triple
CPC.
seal. Do you know what? One more time, just stop.
It's exactly
You've made that done.
the premise from which you are starting.
Yeah.
That nobody has a preconception of what they're going to be seeing, so you've just
No.
got to make it a great experience. We need to go back to that.
Yeah.
That's the bit that we've forgotten, I think. That whatever you call yourself the greatest game, you're actually excluding people, because if they don't already know who you are,
Yeah.
you're not inviting them in.
And if it's the greatest game, which I do believe it is, why can't we have more people participate in it? Whether it's through watching the game, through playing the game, through embracing the game, through
Absolutely.
memberships, or whatever way you want to do it. It's a bizarre concept to me that people say it's the greatest game, but it's like it's got to be on my terms.
Yeah, it's not for you. You're not for me.
Sorry.
It can't be for you. Go back
But
and
I
watch
mean,
the lacrosse and eat
this
your Putin.
weekend was the Nigerian Grand Final. Next weekend is the Ireland Grand Final. We need to see it more in the round and as a whole, and what the sport can offer in its widest sense rather than its narrowest. And what we've come to at the moment is, particularly geographically,
Yeah.
we've never been so insular.
And if
And
you,
that doesn't sell. Global. It's
Yeah.
either global or it's community, but there's nothing in the middle.
but if you look at the nine, say if you were to have it in the UK, is why not do it like if you have 8 teams, you have 8 venues, do it as a festival. So for 8 straight weeks, men
Nine.
and women's, why not?
It's got to be 9 because Gary keeps saying 9 cities, 9 minutes, 9 aside. That's your strap line. He's saying.
So so why not have that festival that it goes around in a circle like like the
Absolutely.
WWF or whatever they're called these days? It's about that.
And between the games, the players mix with the crowd.
Yeah.
And go
As they
and
do
have a-
now
go and have a
anyway when
beer.
they're not supposed to.
Like you did, like you would. Go and have a beer
Oh,
between games.
I'm an athlete. I don't drink.
That's why she's not touching
She has
donuts.
black coffee. I'm like, oh,
I have black coffee. See?
I've worn a cash shirt on this programme. I'd happily wear a Leeds Rhinos shirt. Don't bother me. I've got no shame.
What's that? What do you mean?
Because you
Apropos
were
of what?
saying I was
Was
a
that- where did that come
secret Leeds person.
Oh,
You accused me of being a secret Leeds person.
yeah. You try and wind me up and it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
No, nothing much winds me up apart from changing rooms.
and being second
No
choice.
changing.
What, the new series on Channel 5? When it's on?
Yeah.
Yeah, start it. Put
Um,
some in.
Obviously, everyone was upset on social media on Thursday because Warrington and Catalans was called off because of the vid. And Sky couldn't be asked to go down the road to Leeds because that's obviously all it takes. Is,
And
like me, I can't even get a bloody
You
phone to work.
You
That
put it on a
was-
truck and
That
then you
That
plug
was
it in
such a
again.
shame
Can't get a phone
because
to work.
that Leeds game, I was in London at the time and I was following on Twitter the little snippets of every 10 seconds of the Rob, and I was like, if only it was on TV because you could really felt that you were there. Like it was too short the clips on social media that you just wanted the whole.
But they've set a schedule, haven't they, Sky? They've set a schedule, and there's nothing they're going to do. I mean, I am so glad there are so many media technicians out there. Honestly,
Experts.
it's wicked, isn't it? Like,
They don't realise that the rigging of a ground starts the day before.
Can I tell you something? Whether you are a believer of the Sky
If the
Sports
people
or...
replying to your mate Tanya, I'm thinking, for crying out loud.
I mean, yeah, somebody
She's
from
on
the
the telly,
media...
she's not what's going on.
Bearing in mind, somebody from the media has just told you it's not easy. When I turned up to the Sky Sports game for the England International, I was then taken into a trailer,
Yeah.
which had... I've got it was 1,000 TVs. I'm
Yeah.
exaggerating
No,
because
it
I
was
do.
a lot. I've seen it. Yeah.
And then I was taken to one spot and there was cameras. I was taken to my desk where I was commentating. Now, for commentating, you need a microphone and a view of the pitch. No. To learn how to use this box in front of me of 80 different... Well, you've got the volume for the ref if you want it, the volume for this, you've got the volume for the producer, you've got the volume for the... And that was just a small portion, not to mention the... God knows how many cameras, and then the sound, and then the rigging of everything. It isn't easy.
No.
And also, you have to pay. It costs to rig, and it costs to rig, and they go often the day before, and everyone's like, oh, they knew that on the Wednesday that people. Yes, they knew that on the Wednesday that people weren't fit to fly. Catalan were trying to figure out how to fly. They then made the call on that morning. It wasn't 24 hours.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And it's just a case of, we are not going to please everybody. There are going to be some out there going, well, they should have just put a stream of Facebook on. Because then you would have complained at how poor the stream was.
They can't. They can't. It's an HD channel. You can't just have somebody with a phone going,
Can you
and
not?
today's coverage is...
How we did the Women's Cup final in 2018 is not how Sky do it. And we generally just had two cameras. We're in the same place. At Warrington, we were on the gantry. We
Like I
only
said,
had two cameras.
for me, I thought it was just a shame that they couldn't. I know they couldn't because it does take a long time. Because I've seen it. When
But then that wasn't planned that Rob was going to attend that one, was it? So it's kind of like...
If they would have only advanced, they might have chosen that game.
Sky
They just
100% would have
They
chosen
did the
that
next
game.
best thing. They sent Barry to interview him,
Oh, yeah,
and it was on the
right,
next day. And,
Yeah.
and I think in terms of fixture, Warrington Castellan was always going to be the choice of
The
other
best,
leagues.
Wasn't it a
Yeah.
rubbish game anyway? Leeds, Huddersfield.
It was never going to live up to what came before.
Yeah.
The emotion of the whole stadium getting behind Rob's return.
Yeah.
Even if it had been a great game, a really great game, it still wouldn't have added up to...
Yeah.
It wasn't a great game either, but that's neither here nor there.
I really wish I was following the sport when he was actually playing, because everyone I've spoken to who's watched his career, I'm just in awe by what he's gone through, and
I mean,
just...
We were very fortunate, incredibly privileged to have him do a book signing here on Saturday afternoon. And there was some trepidation beforehand. Would it be a very emotional occasion? Would people come in and start shedding tears? And would he feel uncomfortable and under pressure? And you'd have to ask the people that came rather than those of us that tried to promote it, that it was a joyous occasion.
Yeah.
And that he was saying, partly through Lindsay, but also through some of the things he'd done in interviews beforehand, that he wanted to come to thank people for buying his book.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't change anything in his life, even though he now is suffering the consequence of he can't do some of the things he used to be able to do. So if he wouldn't change anything, and if he wanted to thank people, then the onus was on us to come and make it a great... He had his picture taken with everybody. Lindsay was taking half of the pictures. He at no stage indicated to her how they communicate that he was tired or he wanted to go. He constantly smiled for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
He winks at people to acknowledge what they've said. And I was uplifted by the fact that it wasn't maudlin in any way whatsoever.
No.
And actually that adds to him. So that if he'd been a great player who retired in 2017 and turned up at reunion dinners, he'd still be a great player. There's something about it. He's an even greater human being at the moment.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got his book yet, get it.
I have.
It's a great
Mine's
book.
over there.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
Yeah.
But it's starting to appeal beyond rugby league, and it in some ways goes back to a lot of the things we talked about tonight about creating stories and personalities and for perhaps the wrong reasons. Kevin Sinfield is one of the best known people in rugby league because of what he's done for his mate, not because he got concussion in a grand final and played on and spoke beautifully after winning a grand final or broke the point scoring record. He is known because he defined mateship in a team environment. Rob is known because suddenly people are looking at a rugby career that they might not have known of and said, well, I see what the guy's doing now and the fight that he's got in him. How could he have played a sport like that? Oh, I'm now looking at clips, seeing...
Yeah.
So,
And if you haven't already, vote on the NTAs, thank you, please.
Yes.
a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I think he might. They don't think he will. But, I mean, the family don't think he will.
No, I wouldn't like to call it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to call it. Do you know what? It's a promotion of something so beautiful that it doesn't. To me, what a
It's
great
beyond
achievement.
the sport.
Well,
Yeah.
and
If he
also-
does do it, what fantastic! But for me, it's the promotion that he's getting and the
they're
people
going to be on
that
the
are
red carpet.
and the people that are
that'll be-
retweeting or the people that are the celebrities that are promoting him and the family and the
Alan
story.
Shearer, so-
Yeah, like wicked. That's for me. That's wicked.
It's to be nominated for an award like that, because when anything's voted on for by the public, it's not necessarily the best of anything that will win. So to have that nomination is the victory in itself. But
And it's a tough crowd, isn't it? Like Marcus Rashford has done phenomenal things. Kate Garraway and her story of of her husband.
Yeah.
Like there are some.
But the thing about Rashford is football is still divisive.
Yeah.
So you won't get an Arsenal fan voting for a Manchester United player. We showed with the Sports Personality of the Year that if Rugby League gets behind one of its own, and everybody who supports Rugby League, no matter which club they're allied to, would vote for him, he's got a chance.
I voted, and I don't even like the programme. I didn't watch it.
9th of September. That's when it's on.
What?
That's when it's been aired.
No, I meant the Kevin Sinfield thing.
Oh.
Do you know what?
I don't like Sports Personality of the Year.
I've been a couple of times. It's brilliant.
I think it's a chronic load of crap, but I still vote.
Hey, any time to dress up, Joe.
It's not what it used to be. It used to be good, and now it's just.
Somebody needs a donut and a bit of sugar.
Not as good as it was. It might have a donut.
Have a bit of donut.
It might cheer you up.
Have a little circle of happiness there.
Look.
Little circle of happiness.
I will do
He might change in the next half hour. Might be all happy. But it's I think what his story has cross sports. It's not just about his story has got so many people talking, whether you are a rugby league fan or not, and that's how powerful sport can be.
But it's also it can perhaps even help you, because if you turn up in an unfamiliar location, say, it's the sport that Rob Burrow plays. Somebody might go, I've seen that story.
Yeah.
I know that. I'd like to have a go at that.
Yeah.
People watch BBC Breakfast, they don't watch the other side, which is good.
BBC. A little bit of Sky Sports on the side. 420.
Anyone else? How's your book? Have you read it yet, Danica?
It's
work in progress.
Work in progress. I'm halfway through it. Halfway through going through it.
Busy lady.
Mhm.
Keep being told.
You keep being told.
Yeah.
Do you not know she's busy?
I know she's busy.
No, I'm halfway through it. It's some holidays, so I'm getting there through. So it's quite hard reading something about yourself. It's so
If she's not got
weird.
massive ego, I can imagine.
No, it's like, it weirds me out, and I'm like, the concept of it is quite, it's odd. It's very odd, and
You got a title yet? No. If you've got any ideas, send them in.
Do a vote.
You could win a Leeds
Be
in Crisis
nice.
t-shirt. I've got a Leeds in Crisis t-shirt. Can't buy the Leeds women's kit, but you can buy a Leeds in Crisis t-shirt.
Are you still selling
Would you like the?
We love the Leeds Rhinos women's kit. It's not as good as a Wakefield kit, because that says 4020 TV on it.
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah, it does.
It's a nice colour as a Wakefield kit.
Blue.
Mhm.
Blue is the colour of the shirt, and the red and white. I still like how Wakefield's kit is designed on the one that they wore when Wally Lewis played a season in which they got relegated. Have Leeds got a special Magic Weekend kit, Phil? Do you know?
I would hope.
Because I know Salford have got
But the annoying...
Because we're all excited about Magic Weekend, which is in 2 weeks and I'm not going.
Yeah, just from, again, that Leeds point of view, the annoying thing is Josh Warrington is fighting at Headingley on the same night that Leeds are playing Hull.
No way.
Magic, which, again, they're not arranged at the same time, different sport.
Yeah.
But it is a shame, I think, that...
You're kind of asking, because you might have fans who are
there
both sports.
would have been loads of Rhinos fans at that boxing event.
There's a lot. I went to have a look at tickets purely out of interest rather than, and there's quite a few sections sold out already.
Wow.
How's your boxing career? Is that
God.
Absolutely non-existent. Never, ever, ever to come back again.
Good.
Nor do I ever want it to. Do you know what? I remember just after Robert got diagnosed with it, and Chev and I were upstairs at Kirkstall talking about it, and we were laughing. Because I am, despite being a prop, despite being quite forward maybe,
Aggressive in nature.
I'm not aggressive.
Scary.
I'm not
She
aggressive
is
or
not.
scary.
That's why Sandy's there.
I've never, ever thrown a punch in my life. On the pitch
But
when
you
there's been
could.
fights. I don't think I could.
I think
Was
you-
it-
She's a butterfly.
I think you could.
But like when me and Chev were
I
talking
think
about
you
it,
could hold somebody up by their collar in a very threatening
I
manner.
can hold
Should we
you
try?
from
Should we
Look how you
try?
really Bremner.
I just
Should
let
we
you do
try?
it. No, I couldn't. I physically couldn't do it. Like I'm not. I don't
If somebody
have that.
picked on your mate, if Danielle was on the floor being pummeled,
You would.
I'd push them off. I'd push them off, but
Oh,
I'd never
that great
punch
clip
them.
of you pushing someone the other side. That was brilliant.
Yeah, my weight. That was feathers. Well, yeah, that old clip. Exactly. I don't even. My feedback from the World Cup was I'm not aggressive. But anyway, I remember me and Chev were upstairs talking about it. Brett Delaney was coming up, and Brett Delaney was giving all this, blah, 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 and I'm just like, I don't want to. And Rob just said to me, "Who are you fighting?" And I was like, "Oh, Reed." And he went, "Where's she from?" And I was like, "Cass." And he just laughed at me. He laughed at me in the face, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you." And he was like, "Yeah, unlucky."
Cast people.
Cheers,
are
pal.
Leeds metropolitan people. You know, you've got hummus and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Women's Super League in a bit because oh, okay, it's 10 to 8. We can do whatever we want. Because we only talked about Leeds and Huddersfield as a match this week, and that was rubbish. So all the other games will sum up now. Lee have won a game. Congratulations, Lee. You're still going to get relegated, but you've won a game, so well done. Yeah, I didn't watch it. It wasn't on telly. I was working. It was on Talk Sport. I know that, which is good, but I assume they played well. They beat Salford.
they played better than Salford.
Salford apparently have got problems with discipline in so much as that they haven't got any. So there you go, Lee fans. There was your summation of Lee versus
Well
Adelaide.
done.
Congratulations.
Hull apparently have got the bragging rights in Hull
Game of the
by
season.
beating Hull.
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about it, yeah.
The ironic thing is that just before that game was played, Adam Pearson did a big interview about.
Rugby League's dead.
Yeah.
Can I have some money, please?
he had a Rugby League's Gerald Ratner moment. The product is poor. The game's in a mess.
Yeah.
Please, can we have some money? Oh, I'm a merchant banker sat behind a desk. You're desperate for money. I've just devalued my offer.
We haven't got enough big Polynesian forwards. Can we have some more money?
And then his team went out and played in the best game of the season, which actually says product's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just play it
More
the
often.
right number of
Yeah, the
times.
right way, yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever restructure you're coming up with, keep some element of this rivalry thing because clearly
It works,
it does work. And iconic moments in derby matches, Jordan Lane's charge down will now be added to that.
What was their attendance? Was it
We don't
the
know.
derby?
We don't know.
Oh, look, attendance not given.
Right.
You know, if teams in League One who have got nothing, well, I guess clubs in League One might have something to hide depending on how they decide on who we're going to kick out and who we're going to keep in, if that is the way we go. If they can publish their attendances, which are in the 3 figures, then I don't know why Hull FC can't publish their
Hull
figures.
back in the 6, just behind Hull KR. It was everything that
I
was great
only
about
wondered
rugby
because there was a statement about staffing or something, so that's why I was just
Well,
wondering
this
how many were able to.
And this
Yeah.
is an issue that, well, you'll see this on
I
Sunday.
believe around 14,000, but they didn't
Okay.
announce it.
This is stadium management companies. Have you seen what's happening with York this week? They're playing Bradford, the men, and then
Okay.
the women play Leeds. Never heard of them.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. The Angry Ambers and
Yeah.
Angry Ambers.
She doesn't look angry.
Is this a Rugby League podcast? I was here for checkers.
And the
It's
stadium
cruising
management
for my
company
first
there
cruising.
in York are, because I saw a tweet about this earlier, putting the capacity on Sunday to 2,000, which is ridiculous. Because obviously York, plenty of people want to go from York to see the back-to-back grand final winning Leeds Rhinos. No, only one grand final winning Leeds Rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
And iconic Bradford, but they can't go see him because stadium management company.
Are there many teams like that where they don't own the ground?
Oh, no.
Too
I
many.
don't know. I don't.
Too much.
Yeah.
Is there?
But I think that's a bit of politics with the football club at
Right.
York, which it is at
Which
Hull.
it's said
as
at
well,
Hull.
yeah.
Okay.
But get it sorted, stadium management people. Nice stadium as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
We've
when-
been there.
but get there a bit earlier just to find which car park.
Yeah.
Hey, It's a lovely stadium. It's
Has
very
it got changing rooms?
it's aesthetically pleasing. It has 2 sets of changing rooms. Sand-based pitch. Oh, it's gonna burn. Ooh.
I've
Well,
only,
it's
Better
got
I've
hope
only,
it's raining.
It's got no Richie Mathers on us.
I've only been to Hull KR. I've not been to Hull City. I've been to 2 games and then the Challenge Cup draw thing. Great stadium. I do.
It's
thought
developing. No, it's a
Yeah.
club that's
Okay.
going places.
yeah.
Club that
Tremendous.
perhaps isn't going places at the moment is Wigan. Because that was a toweling in a derby at home.
I thought.
And as was pointed out by the great Phil Wilkinson, more yellow cards than points scored.
I thought it was a dreadful game. And I'm not saying that from I'm being grumpy and Sandy's accused me of it.
There you go.
It's
Have
true.
a donut, honestly.
I will do.
It's not on air.
Just
It wasn't
so niggly.
It wasn't dreadful. It was overly dominant by St Helens and lack of anything other than reverting to aggressive type.
Well,
Wigan.
if we say Salford are indisciplined, and obviously I've not seen how they performed against Lee, I don't know how we describe Wigan. I mean, I don't like calling out players because I never was one, so I don't like doing it. No,
But you
coach-
So you can do it.
no. But all I'm going to say is, one, I can't understand why Willie Isa decided to do what he did to Jack Wellesby in the first place, and then was that his first yellow card or his second yellow card? He maybe not even got a card for that one.
He didn't get a
He didn't get a card for that one, did he?
Why did Adrian Lamb keep him on the field? What a liability he was on Friday night.
But then it's not a player point of view. That's a coach's point of view, isn't it? So you've got quite a consistently good player, yet your team are not performing, and you expect. I think there's some element of expecting the experience to step up, and I'm sure that the talk in the sheds at half time would have been, I need you guys to step up, and
set a lead.
Yeah,
Don't
lead
be
by
bad.
example.
Yeah.
But then there's a fine line,
Which
isn't
he
there,
did,
between
because the rest of the team then became...
Yes, that's the thing, isn't it? So Courtney's taking it back because the women's games all I know. Taking it back to Courtney is the coolest, calmest person under pressure. So we can be 20 points down, and under the stick she'll be like, right, girls, this is it. However, when Lois was captain, she is much more fiery. We need to make sure you do this. You better get your head and you better get your shoulders in. We need to be hard on the floor. We need to be more aggressive on the floor. And that's a different perspective. Now, if you've got a player that gets frustrated very easily, like I've played with girls that have got frustrated very easily, and they'll just whack you. Because they're annoyed at themselves, but they don't know they're annoyed at themselves. They're annoyed at their performance or lack of performance.
And they're annoyed at their teammates because
Everyone's
they're
not
losing a
performing.
very
And it's that
important
level of
game.
frustration and aggression that comes out because things aren't going your way and you've spat your dummy out. And that's essentially what he did. And then he continually does it. And there's Adrian Lamb thinking, is he thinking, I quite like the little bit of aggression. It's gone a bit too far, but I like a little bit of the... There's a fine line, isn't there, between being aggressive and being an idiot. Yeah.
But I think it's a bigger issue than that. It's the first time Wigan haven't scored a try at home in Super League.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then again, there it goes back, isn't it? When you're frustrated, you make
That's
mistakes.
been an issue they've had all season, that they just are not creating enough.
Yeah.
And if you're not creating enough, what do you fall back on? Aggression. And if that aggression isn't controlled aggression, then you're just penalising your own team.
Yeah.
And all you are doing is putting yourself under more and
Yeah.
more pressure, particularly with the game being so fast. But I do think that is detracting from how good St Helens were.
Yeah.
They were so controlled. They started
It took
so
the
well. And again, it was a team that were coming off a defeat the week before, and it's like, well, what we need to do is we are the best team in the opening 20 minutes. Statistically, everything points to the fact that we have got intensity. We're difficult to break down. Teams don't score against us in that opening 20 minutes. We're going to go out and do everything we can.
But they've
to
come back
blow
from
Wigan
they've
away.
come from a hurt, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've come from
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
hurt.
But that was a really good performance from them.
But I think you always after a surprising loss or a big hurt like that, like how many years has it been since they've lost at home or whatever?
Yeah.
They are gonna be. It's the embarrass, it's the hurt. It's just but we've seen them step up though, haven't
Wigan
we?
don't seem to have that at the moment. There's some ingredient missing.
I think there's a lot of individuals at Wigan.
Yeah.
For, like I don't know if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of the personalities we've won and been talking about.
But they're not gelling
But they're
together.
not.
No.
They've been individuals, and they're. I don't think it's a push for the limelight or the spotlight or anything.
it's
But
just-
there's
I
too many
think
people fighting against each other for
when you played Wigan and Ben Flower and Tony Clubb were at prop,
Mhm.
you knew you were going to get a belting.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think the young kids that they've got at the moment aren't at that level of maturity.
It's the arrogance,
So it's
if
really
you can call it
hard.
that,
Yeah.
pre-game. The arrogance pre-game about, let's get into it. Like, it's a fine line, isn't it, between having that,
It is.
I'm up for the game and I'm going to give you up, versus being, after the game, you just look a bit of a mug now, don't you?
Well, I think as well the Lewis Dodd try when he ripped the ball out of Ollie Partington.
Yeah.
Again, that's a crucial moment in the game, but it's a young kid who's been brilliantly nurtured and developed. He's been sparingly put into the first team, played at auxiliary hooker, learnt how to defend and look after himself. He's now given the big role and he's allowed his confidence to express itself against a young kid who's still trying to grow and get a reputation. And almost that moment encapsulated the difference between those two teams.
But what's Ollie been spoken to? How's he been spoken
Well,
to?
yeah,
How's he been
he's
treated?
not at a level yet at the moment where he can go out and dominate teams, even though I think he's been told that he can.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's that level. So I know we've got a couple of new girls. Like, our expectation on Fran Goldthorpe to take the ball and score tries is a lot. The expectation, the pressure on her to do that. She doesn't score a try and she thinks she's had a rubbish game. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But as a squad, we're
Yeah.
like, Fran, go, and
That's
the
not-
same with Caitlyn. Caitlyn is now mature enough in the sense that she's not going to score 60-metre tries every time, and yet she still doesn't value her performance, but she doesn't beat herself up as much as that. Now, if these girls are taken, so if Fran takes to not scoring or not getting her own way, like St Helens chopped her down in that semi-final, and she got frustrated, but she doesn't have the boot in her yet to take that frustration the wrong way. So you've got a young lad who's like doing all right, and somebody's saying, you better be doing this, you better be doing this, you've got to be doing this.
You've got
like,
to live up to that.
yeah. And like, you've got people who, at the end of the day, who you still rate and you still look up to, telling you have to do things and you're not performing, you're going to make more mistakes. I don't care who you are.
think it's partly a game plan thing that you've got to play to what
Yeah.
you've got. Kai Pearce-Paul is arguably the best offloader in the game, but the way Wigan tried to play on Friday night wasn't about offload, it was about being aggressive.
Yeah.
And you're suddenly going, well, hang on a minute, maybe you're just not using the best of what you've currently got.
But if you're giving all these instructions to the players, like someone's going, do this, do that, do that, which one are you going to remember? You can't. It's about that communication and just take.
And there isn't enough leadership. Sean O'Loughlin, we're now seeing how much they miss him. Tommy Lulawai, not out there at the moment. Sam Powell, all of the guys who would have said, right,
That's
just
classic. They're trying to
calm it down.
they're trying to refine themselves, but it goes from, you're playing St Helens at home.
Yeah.
I want you to get on the front foot. I want you to be dirty in this, rather than just going, guys. And as cliche as it might sound, let's play our game our way. And that's how do you strip it back down?
Game?
Well, that's exactly
And
it.
that's
like,
the issue. I
there's
think,
there's too many cooks, in one sense. There's too many cooks, and not enough.
Broth.
Well,
I mean, I would be saying to Jackson Hastings, it's your team.
yeah.
You determine what we're doing. You clearly are. I know you're not going to be here next year, so it's a
but
temporary
still,
thing. But at the moment,
For now,
he's looking
until
after Harry Smith too much.
Yeah.
For me. And then it's where's Hardaker's best position, and you've moved Jackson Hastings out of the halves and into full back, and then you're moving him back into the half. And
They have had
quite
so much,
confusing.
haven't they?
Yeah, I just think they've lost their identity, and that showed on Friday night. And whilst, again, we have said a million times, we do not wish ill on any coach ever, particularly in a time of COVID, and not even knowing who's going to be training on the day-to-day, I can see Adrian's Lamb reign coming to an end.
At least he'll get on Sky the week after, though, like Chris Chester did. So
that's
positive. Speaking of Chris Chester, Willie Poaching, he's out now. Willie out, hashtag. Because 700 games in a row now, Wakefield can't beat Castleford. It's rubbish. They're just a little town in Wakefield. We can't beat them. Bad times. So much so people were sending abuse to Ollie Holmes. Why are you sending abuse to Ollie Holmes? He's just a second rower with tape round his head. You haven't done anything wrong. He's not evil.
Although you finished the game very strongly.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Apparently,
came
yeah.
back,
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
That's something to build on.
brought it back.
Although clearly every team has got 2 games to play in 15 minutes next week, so.
There's games in midweek this week, isn't there? Yeah. Well, Wednesday, Wigan Leeds.
Yeah. So
I'm telling you everything.
Phil's not.
On telly and everything.
Are you
And
on
how
telly?
can you sell a product and the people who play it if you're overextending them to the point where the product gets compromised?
The thing is, there's too many games and the players cannot play to their optimum. So it's not only the welfare side that concerns me. Like I said, I'm not a player. I've never been a sports player, so I'm just obviously observing from an outsider. Is these are human beings.
Absolutely.
They're just like you and me, but they play the game. So if we were
You
working
must be
very long
bruised today.
hours, if we were working really long hours, we would never be to our optimum, and
No,
therefore our product.
But I think the other
What's
thing
his-
as well is we've seen one particularly great game and some great rivalries over this round.
Yeah.
But we don't have time to sell that because all of those teams are
Got-
playing again
yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday,
Yeah.
and then they're all playing again
Yeah.
on Monday. So like we will have forgotten this
Yeah.
Bateman-Bentley battle because they'll both play well, depending on the.
The
disciplinary
They'll be playing next Monday.
Yeah,
on,
but you know,
Bank
what I mean,
Holiday round.
we don't
Yeah.
have a chance to tell a story because
Yeah.
not only are they playing again, but they're playing again and again, and we got that completely wrong this year.
What happened in the championship films? You got my paper. I don't know what.
Oh,
happened.
sorry, that's
Has
Well,
he
I-
made your paper? How
Yeah,
rude.
I know. Well, in fairness, I only get it for the letters page.
the crossword. You only get it for the crossword.
Yeah.
Do you actually
Two
complete
down.
it? How long does it take you?
Two down. No, there's one for the people. Batley beat Sheffield 56-12. Bradford beat Swinton 30-26. They've got the biggest goalpost in the world, apparently.
Who
But
are?
apart Bradford.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
former Bradford.
Why? Please tell me why.
Because they've come from Anfield.
What?
From Magic Weekend at Anfield.
The RFL give them for free. Oh, I guess they own them, don't they?
Well,
That's
you know
why
what?
I
I might start kicking. There might be more chance.
If we get some sellotape, these are even bigger. Featherstone beat Dewsbury 64-6 up the Rovers. Oldham 6 Toulouse 34. Widnes beat Halifax, that was a surprise, 25-6. York beat Whitehaven 30 points to 12. Toulouse is still top, 100%. Who do they play this week? Toulouse. Can't find them. No one, because they won't be playing anyone, will they? Because
Nobody
goes
can
there.
go on there.
Oh, right, okay.
But Fev,
Oh, I'd love to.
they told Oldham. Bram Dermot and all that. League One, the best competition in
Swinton
the world.
nearly won at Bradford.
Yeah,
though,
which
so-
would have been
Yeah.
funny, wouldn't it? But
No, but I mean, hats off to Swinton.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's that.
up the
is-
Lions, still bottom of the table, sadly. 8.33%. Lee now on 5.88%. Obviously, as a team, Sponia team is on 26.32%. I'm getting a bit nervous now. We go whenever coming back. League One, Coventry beat West Wales 50 points to 18. Doncaster beat Barrow 26-18. Shows you the value of signing a player who's been retired for 2 years, apparently. Due diligence and all that. London scores 14, Keighley 34.
He really needs those donuts.
Rochdale drew with Hunslet, as you said, 34 all, and Workington lost to North Wales, obviously the team of the week. 40 points to 18. Is that 7 in a row for North Wales or something? I'm looking at Phil because he knows
That
everything.
is, I think that's the most surprising score I think of. But
Mhm. Yeah.
not just the win, but also the score margin.
Yeah, they get team of the week in there. They must have done. Yeah, they did. They got team of the week.
Well done.
Well done. Women's Super League, which is back on. I've got no idea what's going on.
Come on.
I've completely lost track of what's going on.
Leeds
She
beat
just
Castleford.
plays.
Wakefield played last week in the Shield. I didn't even know we were playing. And I should know these things. But I think we're playing in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go watch them. This week, Leeds beat Castleford 28 points to 6. You're not on
6 all
the
at half time.
you're not on the score sheet scoring a try, Danica. What happened? What went
Yeah,
wrong?
well, come on.
I'm a defensive player these days.
You
More about-
started? What's all about?
We've got a lot of injuries. I wish it wasn't even the case.
Don't be so hard on
There you
yourself.
go.
No, it's a real talk. It's
Tell you
real
what,
talk.
I had my Twitch on, so I had my private account, so I could send abuse to all the players, and there you were in the middle of the pitch.
I know. I'm real shout out to Beth Lockwood,
Moving
who
the ball forward.
Beth Lockwood was with us in 2018, and then due to university and she is a sports therapist, so the commitments there, she moved and she actually went to train with York, but I don't think she played for them because she was at York St John's, which is obviously linked, and then has come back and has had lots of so many like medical like issues and stuff, and has really fought her way back in. Basically came back to train with us, got back into squad, and was essentially told, please keep trying, maybe not this season. Started on Saturday and had an absolute blinder of a game. Such a great runner. Was fine in the front every time. Absolutely wicked. And by far my player of the match was Beth, and she was wicked. So shout out to my gal.
There you go. So are you top of the table now?
No, well, I think
Yeah,
we've not.
Oh,
We've
you-
got, we had the first bye weekend.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
71-32 now.
They did. I watched bits of that. I was working yesterday, so I couldn't
I watched
watch
bits
it
too.
properly. They've signed 2 players from Wakefield, which was exciting. Someone tweeted me.
Exciting.
Yeah. They've signed the best ball stealer in the game in Emma Kershaw. She was on our show at the start of the year. And we spoke to Liv Whitehead a couple of weeks ago. it's part of our media training.
Exciting. Interesting word to use.
I mean, I'm not happy because I'd rather stay at Wakefield, but
Yeah.
York are just hoovering up people.
They're not hoovering up. Hoovering sounds like it's debris. They're not hoovering. They're trying to cherry pick. Oh, I've said it out loud.
Who are you playing this week?
York.
Well, there you go. They can put
Pinned
on
up, pinned up in the
put it on their social media.
I
Do
know.
you want me to tip York or Leeds this week?
You can tip whoever you like.
I'm going to tip Leeds because you're going to win,
You
aren't
lose now, Richard. It will wholeheartedly be
they?
you.
Have you got any players back from injury, or will you be back on ball washing duty?
Oh, do you know what? Don't even
It's like, kick it, that's why I got stood there.
Do you know, I'm driving down to Gloucester on Friday morning and I'm driving back up on Saturday early morning so I can relax on Saturday to play a Sunday game. So it's a 9-hour round trip. I'd quite like to be playing. That is the commitment that I make to Leeds to potentially...
Jolly wash the
I'll
ball.
watch the balls. No, and also it's Sam's birthday, so we're all going to Newcastle after the game.
Professionals. Saints won 32-0. They're good, aren't they, Saints? I mean, it's good to see two teams wearing white shirts in the game. That's good again.
Do you know what? Saints are wicked, and like a massive shout out to the likes of Jodie Cunningham because she's been there was a few injuries from both squads this weekend. So Saints without a couple of players, and Derek Harden was very elusive to how, whys and whats. We found out that Rhiannon Marshall, who is a 13 forward who's currently playing in the halves for York, who is doing a lot of the work.
She's described as a prop on the Twitch the other week, which I thought was very interesting because she ain't a prop.
Well, she has. That's what I mean. She's played everywhere pretty much. She's had an operation apparently, so she's out for a couple of weeks. She will return for some part of the playoffs. Kelsey's been ruled out for the rest of the season from a foot injury. I think that's something that's been niggling that she's from what. And I got all this from the commentators, not from anything that's been put out. So both teams had injuries which could have affected it. So Jodie went back into fullback for parts of the game. You know, she's linking up, which meant Zoe Harris came back into the squad, and Zoe's been fantastic. I really like Zoe. She played at Thatto Heath, and with Faye being injured and people being injured, it's given her a chance to come up. She got a try. She was setting things up. I thought she was fantastic. I really, really hope that giving her the time to get out there and prove herself again is, you know, she's going to get more game time. But Jodie's just, you know, a bloody nightmare in the sense that you don't want to like how good her skill is, but it's undeniable.
Yeah.
Her ball handling, having been moved into the halves and at 13, as she was in the last World Cup at fullback, you know, the starting fullback for England, her ball handling has got so much better. She's really, and the way she's moving the ball, the way she's linked up with Emily Rudge, they're best mates and have been since primary school. You know, I think that's an undeniable connection. You know, the way they play, having that left edge was super strong. With, you know, you've got Amy Hardcastle and Danielle Bush finishing it, but then on the right you've got Carrie Roberts, who had an injury, and hopefully she's all right, but she got taken off the field. I mean, if she's not all right, it takes her a couple of weeks to recover. Then it'll be great. But they were wicked. Saints are wicked. They're so strong. They're so strong across the board. And it'll be a real contest in a couple of weeks.
The real competition, of course, is the Betfred Women's Super League Shield, which all the teams want to win. Huddersfield beat Bradford last Tuesday, 32-10. No one probably knew about that. And then Bradford lost again to Warrington, 24-6 on Sunday. Bradford have just gone.
Well, Bradford have lost all their players. Bradford have then had a change in coaching. Bradford are, obviously, that's where I started my Super League, and I love Bradford. I love the girls there. I love the commitment that some of the girls got. What Bradford are struggling with is player commitments. So girls not being able to turn up to training. For some reasons, it might be that it's just they can't be bothered that day because it's a very, very, very young squad they're developing. But this is the problem with this elite league. Where's the fine line? Like, this weekend's going to cause no end of problem for the Super League. It's Leeds Fest. There's about 4 festivals on.
You're saying all the players are going to be wanting to go and...
Women's Super League, we have never played on August Bank Holiday as far as I'm aware.
Right, okay.
Which is when all the big festivals are. And when you've got girls that are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 who have pre-booked this, we've had the change in... We've only had the new fixtures come out a week before we
And they
played.
probably booked it last year.
You have to book, like, it's Leeds
This is why
Fest.
York have signed all the players.
But Leeds Fest, Leeds Fest was sold out in March. You know, February, March time. So it's... People might be out there be like...
Who's on? Is it like Anyone good?
Not me, so no.
You're not singing? Oh, come on.
Not this time. There is a good lineup, but I just... Oh, wait.
Ooh.
Liam Gallagher.
Oh, I've heard of him, yeah.
Who?
Oasis. Oh, right. I just thought it was Canadian mix. I don't actually know, but it's a young... Leeds Fest is known as a teeny bopper festival.
Is it?
But they usually have some good names.
Yeah, they have
though.
some wicked names.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd go. But anyway, we'll see. It'd be
You're still young
interesting.
enough to go.
Speaking of,
I'm going to Google it.
Featherstone beat Huddersfield yesterday, coming from behind in what sounded like a very good game.
Yeah.
Up the Rovers. This week's fixtures, apparently we're only in the Women's Super League because that's all they've got in the paper. Wigan versus Cass and York versus Leeds. They might put Wigan Cass on Twitch just to annoy us.
Stormzy.
Storm.
Oh, I've heard of him.
He's wicked. He's so good live.
Now she's really going to want to go.
I've seen him live. He's so good. I love festivals. They're my favourite things.
I've never been to a festival.
Oh.
The idea of camping,
yeah,
the
exactly.
idea of
Why would you
camping
wanna do
just
that?
does
Because it
not
is the
appeal-
best 5 days
No.
you will ever... Oh.
It's,
Do you know, this time
Yeah,
5 years ago, I was seeing, in one weekend, Rihanna, Justin Bieber... I'm a believer. I was seeing
Oh,
Justin
yeah.
Bieber, Stormzy,
All these names.
Jess Glynn, Sia, David Guetta, Annie Mac. Oh.
Player,
Thing-
administrator.
if someone
That's a
said
good
to
one.
me, it's going to be guaranteed nice weather, sunshine,
It is this weekend.
yeah, you know, I could actually try
Might
it,
not be too hot on
but
Sunday because
the idea
Fat
of
girls in the
it
sun don't
raining
work.
and mud and everything really does not appeal.
Went to party in the park once, that was all right. That was a long time ago.
Catfish in the bottle, then.
Who?
I think we used to play them on Radio Yorkshire.
Jerry Cinnamon.
Who?
Stop it. You guys have him. I'm not coming on this podcast again until I get a younger...
You weren't expecting younger, surely. Not
maybe I'm just really cool.
You are really cool, yeah. You're the coolest person we know. You're like a,
Self-professing.
you're like
and
an
having it
elite
work.
rugby
I'm
league player
definitely-
and ballerina
Elite.
and
Yeah.
KSI.
Oh,
I've heard
my
of it,
kid, yeah, I know.
He's the
But
fella from YouTube. He had a
I
boxing
only
match
know,
with Logan
yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
His
I
new,
only know
his
'cause
new
my
song's
kids
called
have mentioned
Holiday,
it.
out now. It's a great song.
Biffy Clyro.
Yeah.
you see, my kids would know all this. This is where I feel really old.
The Struts.
I've heard
Like
of Biffy
we're
Clyro.
in
Bad Boy
London.
Chiller Crew
We were in London.
from Bradford filmed their last music video at Bradford Bulls using story about the Bradford Bulls. I think this is right. So
This is not like when Robbie Paul did a rap record.
Bad Boy
Remember
Chiller Crew originated from Bradford. Bradford
Crew.
band.
that? Of the crew.
Turned up to Bradford Bulls and said, we need some lads that are injured, like not being able to play. We need them in our music video. So you've got, I think it's maybe, I want to say Joe Brown, maybe. I can't remember who else is it. But if you watch the YouTube of the new one, and they're in the back of it dancing away in a scrum. They've got the Bad Boy Chiller Crew in a scrum. Which song is it?
Phil is really in shock,
Or
but
maybe that could be the thing that
I'm
catapults.
trying to
Forget-
find a name that I can
forget
tell
me.
you that I've heard of.
Maybe that catapults Rugby League to superstar.
But it's
doesn't it?
filmed at Odsal as
There
well.
you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Iconic.
The greatest
Who?
female DJ out there for
Who?
Hannah Wants.
alright, yeah.
Hannah Wants. Hannah
I
Wants. If
think
you
it's
want to tweet
Hannah
me. Hannah Wants. If you want me, you. Can we
Two
get this
Door
out to
Cinema
her?
Club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two Doors Cinema Club, I've heard of them.
Yeah,
I
but-
couldn't name any of their
Wow.
songs.
Hannah Wants is the greatest female DJ out there. House, electric dance. You want to like tweet
I
this
knew
out to her? Give her a shout out.
Go.
I'll be there.
The presets on my radio are Classic FM, Talk Sport,
I'm an 80s.
Talk Sport 2.
See,
I
I'm an
reckon if
80s.
I
Like absolute 80s.
I reckon if I put on my last played on Spotify, it would be Hannah Wants.
See, I'm an 80s person. I love 80s music.
Oh, dance house.
Wish I'd not listened.
Officials.
I mean,
Phil thinks he's-
welcome to 4020 Rugby,
Yeah.
rugby podcast.
Music
Talking all
recommendations.
things.
Cardiff Demons versus the Army. That's on Sunday. That'll be on Twitch. Is there anything else?
Is
to
that the
talk-
grand final?
Is it?
Should watch
Go
that.
then. Well, I will watch it. I mean, I'm working, but I can have it on one of my screens when I should be doing something
Shout
else.
out to old Was, the army coach, who's moved down.
Cardiff will win that.
I was going to say shout out to some
Moved
Leeds
down there
Festival.
to. He's moved down.
Aldershot.
Yeah, that's the one.
If you're going to Leeds
From Patrick.
Festival, because I'll be coming through Leeds on Tuesday, please leave your dirty Wellingtons nowhere near the bus station, you dirty stop-outs.
And if you are going, have a wicked time for me.
They swore then. Final question to Danica, and we'll think of something to ask you in a second, Sandy. You're only in this for the stash, aren't you? You want some like Canadian gear, don't you? That's why you're in
Well,
this.
shall I be honest with you now? I'm going to just lay it out there. I'm in it for. Stash is always a good thing.
But you're on a trip to Canada, I should tell you.
Yeah. Hey, yes.
It's fine.
I think we could do an outside broadcast 4020 from.
Canada.
I'm
Yeah.
all
I
for
can't, I
that.
can't get Facebook to work in here today, let alone
She's
Canada.
kind of like part Canadian because you lived with Canadians, so she could.
Right,
fit
no,
in
I need
right.
to show you this. I got from my...
Because we found out you're not Brazilian.
Are you actually going to Canada? Listen to this, from my auntie, from my mum's sister. Are you actually going to Canada? You've got family over there from my father's side. Get me my Canadian residency. I'm going to play the 2022 World Cup for the Canada Ravens. I am. I've got some Canadian in me. Pardon?
Will you get in the squad?
Probably not, no. Not that good. If you're here from my auntie Coidler, I've got some
Watch
Canadian...
the balls.
Coidler. We're Estonian, aren't we?
Yeah, that's good.
Estonia's number
The
one
next thing
export.
will be Estonian female rugby league.
Yeah.
Oh.
Take the example of the CCCCC.
The greatest ever Estonian female rugby
I'm gonna
league
throw
player.
that down.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
We'll get on t-shirts. but
Watch
we
it
don't
be
do-
somebody on here be like, actually my daughter plays for Australia and she's from Estonia. I don't want that. I don't want your negativity tonight.
We don't do t-shirts anymore. That was an old business.
Yeah.
Sandy, you're excited then. I'm not just going to Bellevue on the Rockets. Sorry, the home of rugby
No.
league.
I'm excited because everyone said so much about Bellevue, so I'm
And it's
excited
all
to see
different.
what it's. Yeah, so it's
What about Canadian CC?
The prospects.
yeah. The thing is, there's so much passion behind the people that are working with me. It's not just me. Obviously, people are hearing a lot from me, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes, and
I can second that, yeah.
Yeah, and we really want this to work as a team. You know, the fans, the backers, everybody. It really is a joint venture. This, you know, it's not just about whoever is behind the table and the paperwork. It really is a joint effort, and sometimes there are days when I'm doing like 18-hour days because obviously we've got the time difference. We've got my own job. But the adrenaline and the excitement of when I speak to people about what we're doing and they see the detail that I've presented, their reaction is what gets me going. Because, you know, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy because we're starting literally from nothing in a way. But you need that adrenaline to kind of keep you going and not to feel demotivated. And every time, like I said, I present the whole vision, that reaction is what gets the whole board, because it is long hours that we're trying to accommodate the Toronto time or Vancouver time, and but yeah, so
Time.
yeah, and
Yeah,
UK
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and
Deep.
and so you know, we are excited, but we want to walk before we can run and just take our time to go through everything
I
in
think
detail.
what you're doing, not to put too fine a point on it or even grandiose it before you've had the chance of road testing it. The blank sheet of paper moment is where the sport has arrived at. So if you can get this right,
Yeah,
I think you are providing a template.
we're trying. You know, we are trying,
and that's the thing for anybody listening who's going, but
Yeah,
it
the thing
won't
is,
work in a foreign country.
all-
It actually will.
all I can say
And
is
it'll work back over here.
we are trying, and you know, we're not going to get it right the first attempt. We will learn from it, but it's to say, look, if it doesn't work, you know, at least people can use it as a platform to study why and then try something else. But if no one tries anything, how can the sport develop if we don't try something? But when you're trying it, try it with research, try it with calm, you know, don't rush things, because if you rush, like even in our day-to-day, if we rush decisions on where we want to go on holiday and not think things through, then we do bad decisions. And when you are the custodian of people's money, whether it's the backer or the members, that's a lot of responsibility. So we want to make sure that whatever we are doing, we can show that homework has been done. And that's why we aren't announcing a lot of things at the moment, because until we know that everything is ironed out, legal side, this and that, whatever, then that's when we announce, because at least we know that there's nothing else, there's no other issues to address.
How very unrugby league.
Oh no! As the great Wayne Gretzky said, another Canadian, you
Yes.
don't score with 100% of the shots you don't take, or something. He said something like, because they used to take in business.
You like
thing.
hockey stuff, don't
I
you?
do like hockey. I would have worn a
Yeah.
hockey shirt, but it's too bloody warm. I'm not just sweating because it's warm. It's because these donuts are
Do you know
like
what?
a racehorse.
I did make the special delivery, and
Yeah, but
clearly
yeah.
I'm the only one that even tried to
Yeah,
eat
but
them.
It's hard to try and get.
I'm an
them in
athlete.
edgeways and- yeah. athlete. I mean, I'm gonna press end stream in a second, and we'll see. You'll all believe it because you won't know.
I'll take a picture of him eating.
Don't do that.
What happens here
It's
stays
content.
here.
It's
It
content.
does. It's all content. Thank you, Sandy.
Well, thank
You're
you.
welcome back at some point, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you so much to both of you to kind of give us the platform just to talk about kind of what we're doing. And, you know, we are just trying and you know, anyone who is willing to listen to us.
We will give you that platform.
Yeah.
We only ask for every exclusive, that's all.
And for this amazing girl here who's trying to help us do something different.
Yeah,
And,
can't wait to wicked.
you know, it's using the player experience that I feel is gold dust and using, you know, the battles, the good and the bad to try something, to develop something from a grassroots level.
More power to you.
Amazing ambers rather than angry ambers.
What? I don't
That's
know
what
what you're talking about anyway.
Leeds women, they wear amber,
Yeah.
don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but-
Amber.
Amber.
Canary.
Canary.
Which was the Teletubby? Is it Poe?
Lala.
No, but Lala.
Oh my god. Never watched
It
it.
will be arriving on the 5th of September.
Do
Unfortunately.
the women's play in the Magic Weekend at all, like as part at all? No.
Because that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Because as we've seen with the 100, putting the women on the same stage as the men seems to have, you know, increased awareness of women.
Because I've only
Women play cricket. Oh, bloody hell, who are these people?
Because I've only went to one Magic Weekend and there wasn't I wasn't sure if things have changed since then. Where the
Because again, that'd be a good idea.
yeah,
But
Sorry.
enjoy being at York on
yeah, it's
Sunday.
nice in York.
We'll edit that bit out where you know.
Which bit? I'll say it again.
She didn't say anything wrong.
And I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good game. Really good game.
And the weather's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
That's a positive.
Not when you're a fat girl and playing rugby league, it's not. But no, it'll be a wicked game. And 5 o'clock kick-off on Sunday. Bank holiday weekend.
York's a nice place to go to.
It is, yeah.
It's lovely.
Afternoon tea.
I'll be finishing that and going straight up
So
to
go to
the...
Betty's, yeah.
I'm going to go swim in the sea up in
Northumberland, probably.
just where
Somewhere up north.
where Sam lives, up near the sea.
That's
So.
a bit early for Magic Weekend, isn't it?
No, Sam's birthday weekend, so good game. Good night with the girls.
Jelly and ice cream.
Is it time for donuts now?
It is. Phil, magazine's out.
It is, new issue. And it says on the back from World Cup 20. Thank you for standing by.
Yeah.
I think the dates are not far off being announced for the
Woohoo.
tournament in 2022. Look
Well, we've gone on much longer than we usually do.
It's alright.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, because usually...
If we'd have cut out the 25 minutes to talk about Leeds Fest, would have been all right.
Yeah, but
Still don't know
it's
it's
probably
fine.
more interesting than talking about Lee versus Salford. Certainly more interesting versus Wakefield and Castleford. We're back next week, and I've gone off screen. We'll be back on Tuesday. We might be back another day, but Tuesday, special programme. So,
Special.
special. I mean, obviously this was special.
Thank you. No.
But also special.
Super special.